Try and figure it out.
Yeah.
Hey everyone, welcome to the review stream. Give us a word in chat if everything is working and you can hear us. Because how are we looking? I think we're just streaming Bootza at the moment for some reason.
That's pretty good.
Why is this a
Definitely
thing?
not that. We want it smaller so you can't see my messy bedroom every day. As you can see, I had a huge amount of preparation went into my set today. You've got my lamp, you got my bed, my bin. Yeah, it's all happening.
Good start.
Yeah. Yeah, so whilst we get it all cranking, boys, thanks for jumping on today. Mouldy, Wax, and Runt. If people out there can't see who we got, that's who we've got today. At the world's weirdest stream time of 4 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, 6 p.m. New Zealand time. But that's when we could all get here, all right? So that's what we're doing. And we will, we'll put an edited version on YouTube as well. So everybody will be able to catch up if they can't make it along. How's the chat looking, Run?
I think I fixed Bootza being the main person, and I can't see chat at the moment. So someone else will have to let me know how that's looking.
Gilbo said it's all good, so we might be fine.
Right. Awesome. We got there.
Okay, good. Very good. Very good. All right. Well, should we kick off? Get cranking?
Yep.
I think so. So today, everybody, we're completely not following the normal format. We're just going to start talking it up. All right. So we're just going to talk about the comp. It's going to be super organic. If there's anything in the chat you'd like us to expand on, please ask questions. We're just going to start talking about stuff and see where it takes us today. So firstly, we wanted to. There's the results. Firstly, of all the events. Most people know the results, but that's what happened. Lots of Runt and Twinkles and Vikings sitting up the top there, just quietly. And also a little bit of Hatman, I might say. My goodness, didn't he play well over the course of the comp? But yeah, where we wanted to start today, talking about things that worked really well at the comp. And one of the things that worked amazingly well, I think unanimously, would be the player tracking. And as a person who didn't go to the comp, I wanted to just hand over to you guys and sort of learn from you guys. What do you think? How did it impact the comp, essentially? There's a few different aspects, like which teams benefited the most from it and how it kind of influenced the meta and the speed at which people were able to pick up the game.
I think for us, I think it had helped the teams the most that took the time to watch it back. Our team, we didn't really sit down and watch it back too much, which I think is a big issue with our performance. Was we didn't take the time to watch it, even though it's this really good tool. And part of that was because the comp was such a marathon of 10 a.m. to midnight each day, and Twinkles and myself we're pretty much always on site, whether it's he was doing director stuff or whether we were just in every event. So it meant we didn't get as much time as other teams might have, but we also didn't take the time we maybe could have. So we didn't use it as much as we could have. But early in the comp, I definitely remember watching other teams play, and you could see the Vantage. A big point that I remember was seeing the Vantage defense and how pushed out it gets and how much control they get over the maze. In comparison to other teams, they push out super, super far. But then you can also see the people would just walk behind it and just take their base. So it was this really controlling structure that has a clear vulnerability, and you can see that so painted so clearly on the maze map.
Yeah, I think it was probably one of the best tools ever. But once again, we were in the same boat. I think Zam watched a bunch of games, but didn't really use that knowledge to be I found this perfect gap in Vikings defense because I've watched all of their games, and every time Jelly looks this way instead of looking the other way. But I know for a fact that people have, but there just wasn't enough time unless you were actively doing during the day. But it literally, the tracking was one of the best quality of life things ever for me. I commentated for 1 hour, and it just made commentating so much more enjoyable because you could see everything that was happening. You could literally talk about where people were playing when there was dead time. Like it was just so much to do and like so much to learn as well. Because even if just say we had a little bit more time, if this was at a Zeltec, it would, and with the spacing of the time, people would know how to verse everyone. Like you would literally know like like you could have someone locked down and watch all the streams. Like someone like Cyrex or Cans or something would literally just like know everyone's tendencies, and it would be like people would be like counter stratting for like how people are setting up and stuff. It'd be crazy. I'm glad we didn't get there because that's I don't that's so much, but it's still really interesting to watch.
Well, I wonder if teams like Aftershock and Storm did spend that time to watch it back because they felt
I know Beefy did.
yeah.
I spoke to Beefy a lot this comp because obviously he's getting a bit ancient and his performance on pack to pack is just starting to slip a little bit. And he kept saying to me how this technology renders his kind of playing in the maze redundant, and how he can do more for the team being outside watching the tracker in real time and watching it back and kind of making plays from there. Which is really cool because it kind of adds a new dynamic to like coaching that we haven't really seen before, like being able to actually watch your players exactly where they were, and there's like no hiding what you did. You know, if your base went down and they said, "Where were you?" and you said, "I was right by the back door," and you watched the tracker back and you've pushed all the way to red base from blue base, well, you know, you can see those things and you can tighten them up, which is cool. Interestingly though, like I suspect that Aftershock and Storm were probably the two teams that would have watched it back the most. Not without any real knowledge. Like I just suspect Cyrex and Madcans probably did. Maybe I think Cyrex is in chat. Correct me if you didn't watch any of it, but those two teams also did not make finals. So I think it can be a useful tool, but given that it seems like the three teams at the top didn't make extensive use of it in this comp, it wasn't really a defining factor. And for us, I feel like home teams get the least out of it, because a lot of what we see in terms of like defensive setups and stuff is what we've already like really grinded out. I think kind of contrary to what Wax might have said in the preview stream, like nobody was really doing anything in terms of a stock 3-man defense or a push that surprised us at all. Like we might not have figured out the whole maze meta pre-comp, but the kind of standard attacks and defenses for sure were pretty standard, and quite often they were easy for us to get into, and we didn't really need the map for that. Not that we had the time to look at it.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you about that. Like if that was the things I said on the stream previously, but most of it was just you guys didn't have any of those issues that I was just talking about, or
No. So for us, the issue I think was when the game went to the big shit, like big dumps, which happened a lot. We struggled more, and I think a lot of that, and we also just struggled across the comp with pack points. Like our first game of Vikings, very early on day one, we were like 7 bases to 2, and we still lost. And that I think kind of speaks to how long it's been since the Cobras played against like 10 players at the top level, rather than kind of going to a pre-nats and maybe playing 1 or 2 games with top players or playing invites with a couple of top players, like playing a full 15-man game of A players. Our ability, I think, to passively pack point across the game has diminished a lot. And that's not really maze dependent. That's just kind of an experience thing, and we've kind of been lacking in that for the last few years. But in terms of meta, nothing to me was surprising about how all those games played out, except how often the Vikings dumped. That was surprising and very annoying. I feel like there were lots of games that it kind of the way people were playing 3 or 4 years ago, like we often got ahead early in our games and we'd kind of push a few quick bases because we were really, really good this year at like the quick hit, like waiting for Runt and Twinkles to go out, or the 2 main attackers from whichever team, like Holmes and Fuggin, and just like getting into your base and getting it and going home really quickly. And it used to be that if you did that, people would just hold out for the rest of the game. You'd probably win. And Vikings this year were like, no, we've lost 2 bases, we're fucking dumping, let's go. Like, and then often like the dump can work, or it can throw to the third team, which I think happened in the Cascade 1 or 2 times, and maybe in finals.
I can I just say I love the words you're speaking right now. Considering game 1 of Golden Game, you went, here's our base, open for business, 3 to Vantage, and then dumped on us, completely fucking the first game to Vantage.
Sorry, the first game of Grand Finals.
Yeah.
What color? Oh, we were green.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have some opinions on that game. I was in
I
the
feel like we're
wrong
getting
place.
ahead of ourselves.
let's
we
make it.
like,
100%. I
let's
just had
talk
to
about-
Save it up, save it up.
I had to pull him
Yeah,
up.
we'll save the grand final discussion later because I've
Yeah.
got thoughts on that.
Yeah.
Just one thing with the player tracking, I think that's still the topic we're supposed to be on. That I thought was really cool, not just for spectating the regular game and for commentary. Obviously, it's amazing. I think it makes elimination such a better format to watch. In particular, I love watching Team Elam with the tracker, like seeing everyone's lives, seeing how they're positioned, seeing them run away at the end of the game where they're trying to survive. It really takes what was an incredibly boring experience, which is watching Elam on a 5x3 or a 3x8 or whatever. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
I was curious to know if the lower teams made advantage of it, or is it that they've got a lot to make up in pack skill and other sort of skills that they can't leverage the technology as good? What advantage do they gain out of it?
I don't know if any of the Kiwi teams spend that much time watching the tracker, the lower Kiwi teams. If anyone would, I would suspect like Dika and Insomnia of doing it, and they pulled out some weird strats. But ultimately, they came where they did on the ladder pretty much as expected. So I think any weak team that spends too long thinking about that, they might just throw their own game off because they've got so many structural and tactical issues to begin with that it's like watching the map and trying to figure out is the blind leading the blind.
One of the things I noticed would have been really handy for though is like particularly when you're teaching people timing around dumping and stuff like that, because I noticed what I was able to see just as an observer like remotely was like, depending on when teams dump onto you, you get that late game, everybody's dumping and having the fire sale of bases, right, trying to crank their bases up. But depending on when that happens in the game, you kind of got to respond differently. And I noticed it was really easy to see the way teams were thinking, depending, how they responded to teams dumping onto them and stuff like that. So, yeah, it's probably a little bit like if you were coaching a team, it'd be probably a bit you could teach a newer team in terms of timing of when to do things.
I could see like with lower teams as well, like the keeping people in check when they're like, no, I was at the door thing could be like it could be it could become toxic, but like if someone is like always leaving and they're like starting arguments and causing team issues, you literally just put the proof in front of their face and you're like, okay, buddy, where were you? Oh, at Blue Base, like put your app in and like actually focus up and like do what you're supposed to. But I also don't see that happening. Like I only think from what I know, Storm and Aftershock were the only 2 teams that I heard actually using them. So, which kind of sucks because like it would be interesting as hell to have people counter strutting, but I just don't think we had the time. It's literally just a time thing.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how teams start to, like, if we were to roll this out across all our comps, how teams would structure their teams, because it changes the whole game. Like, everybody takes a 6th for injury, but now you can kind of take a 6th for a slightly different purpose, like a Beefy, for example, like the perfect 6th. If he doesn't play a game or comp and just coaches the whole time, win. But, if somebody goes down, he's capable, he can pick up a pack and fill a slot. Means you can get the advantages of having a 5 and still have a 6th that's useful as well. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how teams kind of decide to, set their team up, essentially. And for old buggers,
to just see how like Pre-Nats 2 for Sunny Coast feels to watch now. I don't know if I'm just going to feel, it's going to just feel average or not. Like, I'm actually keen to see what it feels like.
Yeah, I had that feeling after Invites that we first ran this tech. I know not a lot of Australians watch Invites, but we actually did watch the stream back a lot in that comp. And then every comp afterwards that I watched without the tracker, I was like, this is shit. like you go straight back to commentators just fucking guessing about what's going on in the game. Like, oh, I think he's at red base, and you see like a flash through a blurry camera, and you're like, oh, probably. I think Aubrey's stream was really good for not having it because they had such high quality base cameras, and other cameras. But
You could see enough of the outsides of the base. I think that's the important thing. Like if we played this comp without the tracker and just those cameras where they were, holy fuck, it would have been the worst viewing experience ever. But like the cameras worked because of the tracking, right? Like
Cyrex raised an interesting point. Were you gonna catch that, Boots? Because all the team games being in the last 3 days pretty much meant that most of the there wasn't that stretch of time where you could like analyze some games each day, because it was like bang, you played 16 or 17 games today and you don't really have time to analyze all 6, whereas if you played like 3 a day then you could maybe do it. And you didn't have as much time for the meta to shift because you can't really make adjustments halfway through a cascade, and the whole comp's not going to make it halfway through a cascade usually, unless it's over multiple days.
Yeah. Could you also argue, because of the nature of the arena, that like the arena, I didn't play the arena. We'll get into the arena more later, but it seemed pretty like not complex. It wasn't like Hobart or Albury where there's a lot of complexity to the arena. Like the bases are roughly the same except one's mirrored. Everything's kind of symmetrical. Do you think that would get more out of player tracking if the arena was more complex?
So yeah, I would say it doesn't have the complexity that the Albury arena had, in the sense that there was a midfield where you could move through undetected. It was very much like the pushes are always directly onto each other, so a lot of the pushes are quite linear in the sense that you're pushing directly into someone, whereas a lot of the pushes in Aubrey you could like snake around behind and like pinch them kind of thing, because there was that middle ground where there was that like no man's land, whereas this maze didn't really have much no man's land. You're pretty much always at a defense's push, so they're pretty much always there. So there's maybe slightly less in the sense that you can watch how people move through the midfield, because it's like you're either attacking or you're defending in this maze a bit more like that.
And even if you were moving through the midfield in this maze, there's like 3 people looking at you who are just going to snipe you.
Yeah.
So like it was hard to like do anything sneaky sometimes.
Yeah, I honestly found it quite a lot like Hobart, in the sense that the teams are all backed directly onto each other. There's not really anywhere to hide, like there was in Aubrey. But
yeah, the only sneaky stuff, right, was typically if the person at the entry pushed too far up into like the mid maze, and you could do that blue to red or red to blue run. There were quite a few bases that went down because somebody pushed in the wrong direction, and people slipped in. So there was still that element. It was just significantly less than the Aubrey maze.
Yeah.
Just to roll back over what you said before, Mouldy, about every other comp's going to be boring as hell now with player tracking. I know you might not be able to share much, but can you share anything about the ability to roll this out in other sites, or
so look, it's not
in play there?
Yeah, so it's obviously it's not my project. It's VDark and Popeyes. What I will say is, if you want it and you have money, message Aaron or Danny. Danny's often very busy with our NZ stuff, so maybe message Aaron. I don't know, one or both. But like it is expensive. Like I'm not sure how much they would charge for their labor and the IP and the software on top. I don't think they have an official thing going, but the hardware alone, you need a lot of like these little points across your arena, and then a tracker and a battery in every pack. And then you have to really invest in measuring the shit out of your maze incredibly accurately so that it works well. But it's in one maze. There's no reason it can't be in others. But you're going to need cash, because you probably would want them setting it up, and you'd imagine you have to pay for their flights on top of any other cost as well. So if you've got 20, 30, 40 grand and you want to put it in your maze, give them a bell.
Righty ho. Okay. And pretty much the only issue I saw with it was occasionally like somebody would pop up on the wrong side of the wall. I presume that was when they were wall hugging or something like that.
Yeah, and the tracking, like obviously we're talking about tracking real people, so there's like physics involved. The tracking is worse when you're closer to a wall, and that's just kind of the nature of how the tracking works. I think it's using ultra wideband. Don't quote me on that. There's definitely stuff you can do in software. You can do pathfinding, and you can prevent all of that. It's just a significant investment in time. So hopefully they can bring that back in, because you could make serious software improvements to that. What it's showing right now is kind of I think like an averaged, but still kind of the points that it's just getting, and it treats the walls as if they don't exist, right? The map is just a 2D background behind what's going on, because people phase through walls all the time.
Yeah, whatever they did between invites and worlds, they made huge improvements in it. I would say, like, there was a lot less of it. Yeah,
it's heaps better. And then like in invites, we had like packs dying, and then your person would just sit in the corner. Obviously there were a few desync issues, so sometimes it would show someone as still being dead when they were alive, or stunned when they had been killed, or the base. But it's getting there. You got to remember, neither of these guys are like programmers by trade, in this specific sense. Like Danny is an AX software engineer, but it's kind of different to this code. So they're, in a sense, they're hobbyists, and they've really figured it out as they've gone along. And it will just keep getting better. It's just a matter of time. But they've put crazy hours into this already. Like, I think they were at site like every day for like 3 weeks before the comp, just trying to get everything ready for it. And I think, like, wall phasing aside, it was still excellent to have, right? It's more than just, this is kind of cool. It's like a really, really good spectator tool already as it stands.
It was brilliant. Now, Mouldy came up to me at work, and he's like, "Oh my God, we don't even need cameras anymore, mate. This is bloody amazing." Everybody at home was wrapped with it. Like, that wasn't at the comp. So, yeah, no, it's brilliant. So all those little things will, they're just teething issues that naturally get worked through when you're working on tech projects, and especially when you've got your spare time to work on it. The guys have done amazing to get it to this point. So keep going, boys. Keep working on it. I think we should move on from player tracking, because we've been talking about that for a while. But I wanted to ask you guys what was outside of player tracking. What was your what do you think works well about this competition?
I liked having less teams. Like, I know we talk about how we had no free time, but fuck, it was fun. Like, just playing all day, every day. I loved it. Like, it was an absolute marathon of trying not to get injured, and that was like a terrifying thing that was happening. Like, people were definitely getting injured because you're playing so much. But like, just smashing out a game and being like, oh, when's the next one? Like, in 3 games time. And that's when laser tag is like the most fun to me. It's similar to a pre-nats, how you just smashing out games, and it feels amazing.
I just think maybe like doing it in a way where maybe there's a lunch break or something, because the scheduling was a bit rough some days. Like, there was no time to leave site. Like, you pretty much just had to go to Snow Planet and get food, or starve, like, or Uber something. And like, the scheduling was like, the amount we're playing was actually really good, because you would start a game, you'd play well, and then you could continue playing well, or whatever the hell you're doing. Like, it just made it so the momentum could be there. And also the opposite, like, people could snowball out of control if they had a like bad couple games or something.
Yeah, I think the schedule, given the teams and the number of events we had to get through, was about as good as it could be. I agree with Runt. Like, just playing all those games is awesome, but it was a slog, right? Like 10 to midnight, get home, try to sleep, but your brain's still firing. Get up the next day, come back to site. Like, I tried to drop a couple of events before the comp, but was voted down. But I still insisted on adding Wingman. Controversial in the light of how that event went, I know. So you can kind of blame me a bit for the schedule, and we only had the 6 days. In like retrospect, another day would have been good, but then you're kind of encroaching on Saturdays, so you're pushing the price up at that point. So it's super hard to balance the schedule.
Yeah, I thought it was a little bit interesting how you only had 15 teams, not everybody got to play, because it was the top 11 got to play finals, something like that, top 11 or 12. It seemed like, we're just cutting out a couple of teams. Like, it wouldn't have been that much extra time just to get those extra few teams in there, and they've come so far. That was the one thing with the schedule, I was like, would have been good to squeeze those in. But I know you.
I've actually kind of come
Right.
around to it. So like at first I was kind of a bit weird about the like first going straight into finals and like the bottom getting cut off. But I like all the games we play over the entire 5 days should matter. And first place going to finals, I thought was a little bit weird, but I actually thought it worked well with how like the 3-game golden game finals and like golden games worked.
So I think we're gonna merge into stuff that doesn't work so well here, but I think that stuff. It takes basically no time to add extra games to a Golden Game series, to an Ascension series. I think it should always be 3-track from the bottom. It barely adds any time. You're adding like 1 game every 4 games. Like you're not adding that much to give teams like what I feel is a just attempt at finals. And I think with the top.
We finished so late though. Like even without that, we finished like we were like late for dinner. Like
Yeah.
the day already
Yeah.
finished so late compared to what it should have been,
Oh,
and that
I'm-
was with the cut teams, right?
You could make adjustments to elim and other stuff throughout the comp, but I just think as a practice, like remove round robin games to have more games at the end that matter. I think.
Yeah.
And
I mean, round robin was short, right? Like
Round robin was
15
short.
teams, 7
Yeah,
games. Yeah, you wouldn't want to take away from that round robin. in
or
this
like
comp.
side events. There's got to be wiggle room you can
I
find.
mean, I think
Like,
removing
it's like
side
3
events,
games.
it makes sense.
Yeah.
I guess just having like full 2 like 1 track. Well, what is it? 1 track and then double a limb, just like boom, 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 just knocking out like 2 teams as we go. Is that like ideal? What do you think like is ideal, Runt?
I think you genuinely make it so the back half, which are the most important games, are the ones that are given the most time, like the necessary time. And I think teams all should deserve 3 tracks because like they work just as hard as everyone else. Like they deserve just as much of a shot. I think.
I disagree with you so much.
I
and-
actually I really liked the idea that this 1 game mattered, but maybe it mattered too much.
Yeah. And on the top one for me, like for in the case of teams, I think nobody really cared about like it kind of made sense because Vikings were doing really well in all those games, and it did make it so it mattered, and it felt like Vikings probably did earn to go straight through to finals. However, you look at something like Law, and it's not because it's a different event; it's just because it happened to be closer. But like Guinea and VDark were like neck and neck, like they both won every single game, and they were like 40 average points difference, but then VDark went straight through to finals and Guinea had to
Yeah.
climb there. And it's like, it works well when there's a team or person that's clearly in front, but when you've got 2 that are up there, it's like, does this person really deserve a straight run much more than this person? And that's kind of what we
Look,
saw in the
So
US.
Law's so different from teams, though, right?
But
like-
it could have been the
law,
same
law, but law. So I think as with teams, it's okay because we play so many games, right?
team.
A limb, I
Agreed.
think it was okay with how many games we played. It felt like by the end of it, whoever was one kind of justified, did enough, whatever. Law was terrible in my opinion, and I feel like if it was like Golden Game 1, as soon as round robin finished, the top 3 instantly played, and whoever won got to go straight to finals, and it had a massive break so that they could watch people decide what they wanted to do, whatever. And it kind of worked exactly the same, but they played a golden game instantly before anyone started playing and then started doing the rest of it. That elimination bracket was so much fun to watch, to play in. Like,
Yeah, that was going to be one thing I said is Law Ascensions are perfect. It's like you've got 3 players and it's just pure hype. Like the winning player goes off and everyone else gets knocked. Like that was awesome.
Yeah.
And I hope Zoe takes that format because it's so much more fun.
yeah, 100%, I agree. There wasn't anything like top player in the other events, right? Or like,
Um,
did someone go straight into solos or anything like that?
But I've lost all your facts now.
Nah,
Say something.
no, solos, doubles, and even wingman all had like a golden game
Okay,
or
I've
like
lost all
round 2.
your facts.
They were
Hello,
all normal.
Can you guys hear me?
can you guys hear me?
I think Bootza's losing connection a little bit. I'm still good for Wax and Mouldy.
Yeah, I can hear you, X.
Um, But yeah, I think doubles had like a skip round. Like if you went really well in round 2, you would skip round 3, and that didn't feel too bad. Maybe.
There
That's not
was
good. I mean,
no, there was no round 3.
Okay.
No,
I was
no,
skip-
you-
okay,
There's
no,
no
that
round
was-
3.
Okay,
No.
never mind. Yeah.
No, the only skips were if you did slightly well enough in rep
Yeah,
1, but not well enough to go through, you do the rep 1 to rep 2 skip.
Yeah. But
Which I think Ziltek has done before. No, that was in doubles as well, was it? Or no? I think doubles had the skip. I think doubles had the rep skip as well. From
it was
memory.
just. I
It
think
was
there was
just
a
another
point where
round.
you could get straight into finals, right? It was something that you could do, like if you were the top 2 of the games.
That was
No,
just round
for
2 to
the
finals,
double.
right? That was just round 2 into finals, right? Because there was no round
Yeah,
3.
really.
It's the same as Ziltek.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, just without
Yeah.
round 3. Yep. So nothing too crazy there.
No.
I don't know. I
doubles.
actually really enjoyed the ideas that it was. I guess you are right. The last day should matter for everyone, run, and maybe I agree with that too. But I also liked the fact that like people had to like. I was watching people stressing on the second last day about like, are we gonna fucking be in the bottom 4? Like, we need to
all the
do.
Kiwi
We need to.
teams, yeah.
Yeah, we need to win this next game.
Yeah,
Oh, did
yeah.
we do it? Like, and it was actually cool to kind of have those games matter just as much, but also the same thing. Just have it on the last day, and then it's less stress, and everyone's kind of like it's more about getting knocked out and stuff.
Yeah, like just to put like laser tag in perspective, obviously because it's amateur and people pay all this money and they travel, you can't cut people early. So you want them to play most of the comp, if not all of it. But in any like real sport, in a world tournament with knockout, all of the lower tier teams who are far below the top level get cut after a small pool round and they don't go to knockout, right? Like that is
Yeah.
almost universally true. And the reason we don't do it is because we're not a professional sport and we actually give a shit about people. But I don't think a couple of teams missing out on playing the last day, having played the amount of laser tag that they had already played, is like the end of the world. And I think it does lend something to that previous day that Wax was just talking about.
I reckon what you can do though is you can just make it so finals goes over multiple days, and then you just give them these games at the end, and you take out games at the start, and you end up having more games that matter directly there, because the head-to-head is what you love. It's the best to watch. It's the most interesting to play. It's those head-to-head games, and you remove round robin and you remove some cascade games, and you get to that earlier, and then yeah, you can send the teams home a day early if they're knocked out, but they actually get that opportunity to play that knockout, which I think is important.
I think one other thing as well is that although a lot of these teams aren't vying for finals, they are vying for a position against each other. And I think when they get like one game and it's a double knockout and there's like 1,000 points between them, it's like we're not necessarily getting the accurate rankings at the end of the comp because anything can happen in one game of laser tag, which is why I love the 3-game series that we've started playing for gold games and stuff like that, because I think it does a better representation or gives us a better chance of getting the best teams into the grand final. And I think the same applies for the lower teams as well. They want to be ranked fairly against each other, and sometimes the final rankings don't really reflect it when you're just playing one game.
No, it's not one game, is it? If you have played a full round robin and 2 cascades, and then you don't get to play an ascension, that seems pretty fair to me. Like, I think your ranking against those other teams is pretty spot on. You've just played like what, 12 plus 7. You played 19 team games to get to that point. How is your ranking not fair already? Like,
Yeah, I think
those
I
teams,
agree.
yes, but the teams that came through and their first game was a double knockout, those teams are probably like.
So everything was double knockout, right? Pretty much. Like unless you were top bracket, which was like a certain amount of teams, wasn't it? How many teams were top bracket?
I think only two or three teams got 3 tracks. Yeah, it was pretty much all the teams that went straight through to the top golden game at 2.
otherwise, everyone else got
Maybe
2
just top
tracks,
2,
right?
yeah. Yeah, which felt like it overly rewarded it. But we should probably move on from this point.
Yeah. Well, before we move on to things that didn't work, is there anything else you guys want to bring up that you thought really well? Mouldy, tell us, as the person who was the main organizer of the comp, what did you think worked the best in your comp?
Oh, just to be clear, I was only the main organizer up until about July, and then it was Popeyes. So full credit to Popeyes for becoming the organizer after me. What worked well, I think, just like I was worried about the size of the site and the number of teams on site, and I think the site overall worked really well. The site up, I think, was really great for the players, and I think all of the maze changes and work in the maze we've done over the last couple of years made the maze really, really good for competition. I heard nothing but positive feedback for how the
Fuck
maze,
the long shots. Fuck them off,
Wo-
please.
apart from maybe one or two long shots, but I think the maze was really competitive. I think it was really fair, even though green was a bit cooked. And I think apart from the door of green towards the red side, the rest of the maze was very, very safe. And like I'm very outspoken about Australian players and the speed they run, and the mazes in Australia that encourage you to sprint at doorways in order to break bases, and that's like skillful for whatever reason. And this maze did not require that, so I was a big fan of how the maze played out, for sure.
Cyrix brought up
Boy,
I think the maze was amazing for me.
Yeah. It was a really good maze.
You deal with that.
Yeah, I fully agree with the maze. It's literally just those two fucking pockets that have no counterplay. That they're just shit, but everything else was really good. But Cyrix brought up a good point about the live spreadsheet. So we get live scores throughout the comp, which is a lot better than waiting till midnight each day. So there was both the live spreadsheet and laser base, which we might touch on more later. But yeah, being able to see all that stuff was so good, probably as a spectator as well.
Oh yeah, Laserbase was, and the spreadsheet, but Laserbase was fantastic. Like we had it a bit at Aubrey, right? But it was on another level at this comp. Yeah, it's like game changing. Yeah,
the computer that was in the room that everyone was sitting in was amazing because you could just see exactly what was up next, what was happening, and like keep track of your games, keep track of everything, and it was honestly amazing.
Yeah, from home as well. I was on Laserbase like constantly throughout the whole comp. Essentially, it's so useful. And yeah, first time I've ever had live competition points as games are happening. Like it was amazing to see what was actually going on in real time, and then you could see what the impact was for the very next game coming up, what it meant and stuff like that. Yeah.
And so were you using like the schedule at home to watch which teams are going in when at all, or were you just vibing watching everything?
I was just watching Twitch and I could see which game was coming up next.
Yeah.
And then, reviewing Laserbase for the stats, essentially.
Yeah. Just one more point on Laserbase that is so cool is that it was live tracking the games in real time with the timer and the score.
Yeah, that was.
And having that as a player at the comp and being able to see just when you're going in next without having to like open up the stream or go and check a scoreboard, but then also seeing like the result of it and like knowing, oh, maybe I do want to go and watch this on stream or go and see the lobby after this game comes out because something fucked has happened. Like it's such a small thing, but it's really, really cool. Yeah.
100%.
Were you guys using the base stats much? Because Bootza, you were a big proponent of seeing base stats in real time, weren't you?
As in, like, which base is the strongest base?
Yeah, I'll pull it up on the stream so people can see.
I feel like base stats are kind of.
Has everyone looked at
irrelevant.
it? I actually haven't even looked at this yet.
Yeah. Let's have a guess. What do we reckon was the highest?
I'm gonna guess
But before
red
I pull it up,
wins the most. Green gets this most seconds, and blue has like a perfectly even spread over
Mouldy?
everything.
Honestly, don't know because going into the comp, I would have said red is the clear favorite, and then halfway through the comp, it looked like blue was somehow doing better. But I would back what Wax said, that red would win the most, and then green seconds and thirds.
So here's our stats, and then here's the overall stats. So you had blue and red, very similar, and then green was just absolutely pummeled into the ground. But that might be overly reflective of the round robin and the lower tier teams not really knowing how to play green, because I think green was the one where we saw the most differentiation in, like the skilled teams could do it and the lower teams were really struggling at.
Take round robin
yeah,
and see what happens.
Yeah, I'll take round robin and we'll take some of the early cascades, like not grand final. So yeah, if we just look at the cascades, still pretty. Red was super dominant once Cascade started. So
that makes a lot of sense because of Red's push onto green. That's what we felt at Open, and we felt in training. It's that red can so easily take green base, and like it's much harder for red to throw green to blue team, whereas blue, if you screw around at those doors and you distract the green defenders too much, red will just walk in that door
Yeah.
on the red side and take it for free.
Yeah.
And as is the
it
case
was,
so often in comps, is that in the grand final, it doesn't play out the way it's played out the whole comp. Because I'm pretty sure Red only won one game in the grand final.
I also like
Yeah.
for me, like green was actually probably my favorite base, and I think like a good team could play green well if you actually
Yeah.
understood what was happening and like what you needed to do. Also, having left-handers on green was amazing because like Husky could fight top red X so much better than a right-hander could,
Yeah.
and it was just like and coming from blue to green as well, having Husky diving into green. Oh my god, it was amazing! Like it was just left-handers were so like strong in parts of this maze, in my opinion.
I also had no idea this was it was in the software, the hold comp. Runt. I didn't find
Bootza,
it.
we told you about it. We told you about
Damn it! Damn it! How did I not find it?
Yeah,
Poor
I
Stone.
wouldn't be surprised if people missed it. There's so many things you can click around on this website.
Yeah, I loved the little
but,
information thing. It had all the links in there. It was great. Yeah.
Yeah. I think a lot of people didn't find that either, but yeah, it's all there. And as we run it in more comps, people will get more used to using it, hopefully.
Yeah.
Do
Cool.
you have a maze map that do we want to like talk about the maze at all or not really?
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
need
Let's
glossed
go
over
there.
it.
Let's go there right now. Unless you've got
Yeah.
something that you wanted to add for favorite things that you thought worked really well, Wax, or are you just going to talk about the arena and that worked?
Can I say a negative?
Well, we got that's next, so why not?
Oh, that's next. That's
Transition,
next.
mate. Yeah.
Well, no, we'll leave it. I'll go to that next. We'll just talk about the maze for a bit. What is everyone's thoughts? Because like I actually, it's weird because the maze and the packs, not a single issue the entire comp for me. Like the maze felt like there was a couple times where you'd get sniped and you'd be like, oh, like that was like I can't do anything. Like I'm just dead because there's a person there and there's a person there and like. But I actually really enjoyed how the X's were playing and how like pushing onto the other team was working, and then the sneakies from blue to red, and I thought it had a good flow, but
Yeah, I think generally most people really enjoyed it. I think the complexity of the defense was really interesting. The fact that like defenders had to move around a lot, and it wasn't just like you stand here and you watch this door. You stand here and you stand inside the base and you don't die. It was far more complex than that, and I think you saw really good attackers would manipulate really like defenders around, and really good defenders would like chase down attackers really well, and then the other defenders would like backfill their positions, and it was a really complex base play aspect that I think was like really good in this maze, and what is enabled by like 3-door bases and non-lockable bases. I think non-lockable bases are so much more interesting.
Yeah, this is what I said before in the previous stream, right? That I don't think you have a proper anchor in these bases, and you were maybe a bit doubtful about that, Wax. And I stand by it now. I think there were times in green, if you have someone in default or pocket or whatever you want to call it with calls, they can kind of act as a pseudo anchor. But in a standard 2v3, if you're in there, you're in the wrong place and you're going to lose your base because someone will sneak it, or come in a door where you're not covered properly.
who
So-
was the only team in finals who had literal anchors under their base inside of green? 2 people. This motherfucker, Mouldy. But yes,
Well,
you are right.
Green
Right.
is kind of the exception because it's in the middle, and when you get in the shit fight, you actually are stronger, or you can be stronger with people inside green. But blue and red, in a situation when you're not clashed, anchors are not ideal at all. And these 3-door chasey kind of bases like really typical of like Kiwi mazes and Kiwi base play. So it's why we have them, and we love them because like we're not very good at the whole anchor and run and break base doors thing. So we definitely didn't want to build bases that we sucked at.
Yeah, that's
and I think these bases were actually one of the reasons we were quite strong in this competition in spite of our lack of recent experience. Not just because we're at home, but they just really suit the play style that we're really used to and that we're quite good at.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
maze play was far more positional and sort of where you're standing based, as opposed to can you beat this person on a panel fight and then run faster at all. It was very knowledge based. It felt.
Oh,
I
yeah.
wanted to ask you. Sorry, you finished, Mouldy.
No. Go ahead, Bootza. Yeah.
I wanted to ask Runt a question about how this arena suited sort of the style that you and Twinkles have, and all of the Vikings have, like, sort of produced. Let's say since Hobart, where you've got your strikers out getting 60 tags, accumulating, and it's keeping the kind of the base count to between 2 to 4 bases, let's say.
Yeah.
How it went in this particular arena where you have so many of the defenders playing outside the base and you've got all these cross shots coming from long shots. Like, how did it work?
Fucking hard. It was tough. It was still viable. And like we were really dominant in cascades and stuff with that sort of style. But it was very much a game. Aubrey and Hobart, you can lock down both teams' bases. So like we'd play blue and Aubrey and we'd stop bases going down at red and green just by like shutting down the attackers from midfield. Whereas in this maze, you have no control of what the other attackers are doing. Like if you're blue and you try and stand on that X between red and green, you are dead a million times over. You cannot control the other team's attack. So that was what happened in finals as far as is the other teams just attacked each other and you can't stop it. You are completely powerless. So that full maze on lock control game that we love to play, you can't put the maze on lock in this maze. It's the interplay between the other two bases is too difficult to stop, which was really interesting. So it made it a case of quite a lot of like linear pushes, like where you're pushing directly at people, which we're probably less strong at. Like it's not quite our game because it's a bit more dynamic than what. It's a bit more dynamic with all 5 players interchanging, maybe more than we're kind of good at. So it wasn't the best for our style, and I think maybe without lockout it would be very different. But with how oppressive lockout was, it's like trying to run around the other team's bases is brutal.
Well, I just noticed not just yourself, but a lot of players playing that role that you play and Tools play would have massive variabilities in tag ratio. Like some games just coming out with 80s and stuff like that, and then other games doing their normal 150s and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, lockout obviously had a massive say on that. But yeah, I'm curious to know if it was also the layout of the arena that was causing that.
Yeah, I think the lack of sort of blind spots in the arena, like there were no blind spots if you're not at your base. There's everything can be seen by both teams, so there's nowhere like Aubrey to kind of hide in the middle of the maze and reactivate. It's you have to activate in front of someone and they have a massive black pack advantage on you. So it's very brutal to play that role, but most teams were doing it because you still want to have someone getting pack points in the other side of the arena a lot of the time. Like at blue, you kind of really need someone on the other side getting those pack points because you get shut out of the game otherwise. But at like red, for example, it's maybe less necessary because you can just heavy shift your weight onto the green backdoor.
Runt, I feel with your team as well, you typically in previous comps, you and Twinkles would both feel free to just completely roam the maze, and maybe you'd come home for a bit, but it didn't seem like you were that worried about your base going down. And it felt like in this comp, if you both went free, then your base would just go down. And so I feel like Twinkles was a bit more hemmed in than maybe he would like. Do you think that's accurate?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we're a lot better at this sort of like brawl on a door and have an anchor. Like Jelly is like one of the best anchors.
He's a god tier anchor, yeah.
So it's like at green, for example, where we kind of like were able to play him as an anchor, we were actually like a pretty strong green defense. But the other bases, we were definitely weaker than we normally are in that aspect. And yeah, problem is if I'd come home for defense, I'd get trapped there because of all the long sightlines and stuff. Whereas again, a maze like Aubrey, I can go back and forth a lot more with freedom. So it's definitely harder to play that role, and we had to shift our dynamic quite a lot.
It'd be interesting to get some stats from Twinkles about the average number of, I'm not sure, it wouldn't be chain tags, but the number of tags in a row that people were getting. Because I was just noticing there would be like, I think even in the grand final, you finished the last game of the grand final, you were 0-8 or something like that. You were 0-4, 8 tags against, and then you finished in the positive by the end. Like you'd caught it all up. So you'd had some massive runs throughout it. And I was seeing this with a lot of players throughout the comp, like just having massive dead runs, then massive alive runs. Be interesting to see some numbers around that compared to what it usually is. It changes the game pretty significantly.
I think it really depends on how you like view it though, right? Because like for me, I'm like I'm not as good at versing people anymore. And when I would go to just say we're on green and red and blue are pressuring us so much and we're getting control, I would just run to the back of red, like dying, just to get red to fall back.
Yeah.
And then Pug was instructed, I don't know how much he was doing it, to also do the same thing to give us like some relief like throughout the games. And just doing those quick runs would make people like pull back because it was so easy to lose you around the base. And if there wasn't good comms, you should hide in a little pocket and then people are coming clear and then you come out, kill one, and then just start shooting from the baseline and stuff. But I don't know. It was rough at times where, depending on how you'd play, where like we were trying to play more for bases and I was like trying to just find gaps more than just like brawling people. But we definitely noticed, like I noticed when we would verse you guys like Runt, that when you would come there, I would just like help them kill you so that you couldn't do anything. So you would die 7 times and then you'd leave. And then I would just like walk. I would walk and take a couple deaths and it would be fine because like we've stopped you're resetting and we're stopping them from doing anything. And it just felt like this weird like push and pulley thing where you work as a team to like take more of the maze and then get a base and then pull back, and then you could disrupt that by running in behind, and it made it, for me, I really liked it. Like I really enjoyed that. Like,
and that's really a lockout thing and less of a maze specific thing. Like everything you just described is like exactly how proper Nexus used to play as well. And I know you're like a Helios baby. But like the whole idea of like sequencing and using your allies to get up and then to stay up and like push and pull in the maze, that's absolutely a lockout thing. And I know a lot of people at Prenats 1 didn't enjoy lockout from what I hear and what I saw in the survey. But that's probably because they're not very good at it.
And I think the Sunny Coast and 2 Shots a Second, neither of those play into it well.
I played training for the first time since Worlds last night, and it was the worst thing I've ever experienced in my entire life. It was no good. It was hard to even like have fun. Like I was contemplating my entire like laser tag decisions. I was like, have I switched sides? Do I rather world settings? Do I rather lockout? And I was like, what is happening right now? I can't do this.
So you were playing without lockout.
So we were playing like just nat settings last night, and I was like, holy.
So what? Like
fuck,
dead people were just reacting and shooting.
Yeah. No, because I was jokingly like killing blackpacking people and be like, oh, I'm still lockout. You guys just suck. It was pretty funny. But I was not having fun last night. It was not good fun.
I think all the things you were describing before, Wax, are the reasons why I like. There's this obviously a lot of discussion at the moment about lockout versus no lockout, if it's better or not, and it's completely mixed. But my personal opinion is I like it for all the reasons you said, Wax. Like I just feel like it makes it so much more interesting than having. I mean, and this isn't just a lockout thing, but on Helios, the amount of doubles that we had, and you'd never go more than 2 DX without at least getting a double. I just felt like it just made everything a little bit more vanilla, and the dynamic of the lockout and having to really think your way through a situation where you've got a disadvantage and sometimes having to do something completely left of center in order to break the sequence and stuff like that. I just feel like it creates more. It's more interesting for me personally when playing. But yeah, it'd be interesting. I can't wait to get your official vote on whether you're a convert or not, Wax.
I think for anyone not aware, and I think it is one of the in the bad camp, is we played this comp on Helios 2. Helios,
that as well.
Which is the earliest version of Helios 2, and that has slower chips. So the 60 ms we were playing with felt like 120 because the Helios 2 chips are quite slow. When you play with 60 ms on Helios 2.5, like we have in Hobart, the chips are a lot faster, so the black pack window is a lot less, so it's a lot less oppressive than these settings. I personally found these like way too harsh, and the fact that like you could like turn away from someone as though after you heard the sound and then turn back to them and you could still black pack them, that felt like way too much for me. So I still like black packing, but this definitely felt too oppressive for me.
I mean, it's still not as oppressive as Nexus. Like Nexus
You
is
reckon?
still more oppressive. Oh, for
Maybe.
sure.
I don't know.
100%. Well, Nexus was easier as well in the sense that you could hear and pull at the same time.
Yeah.
Whereas in this one, I don't know about 2.5, but on these packs, if you pulled as soon as you heard, you've pulled too early because
Yeah.
the black pack window is still shifted,
Yeah.
which is something you can't change. It's built into the hardware. So Nexus was much easier to black pack still than what we played on.
Yeah, it was a bit. Yeah, the Helios 2 with the 60 is not ideal, I don't think, for quite a few reasons. But it's pretty rare to have these packs. They're mostly 2.5 now or Pro. Wax, how did you feel the black pack window in comparison to Pro was on these packs?
Like I said earlier, the packs literally felt amazing. And playing last night, you forget how much of a shotgun Pro is, and I'm literally just shooting in the vicinity, and it's like, holy fuck, I can't believe like how crazy this is. And my entire like brain is cooked. Like last night was like I was going through some shit last night, and it was but the black packing at Worlds, like I honestly, pack wise, didn't have more fun in a comp. The only thing, all my complaints about anything regging or anything are base related. Like I understand people miss and whatever the Mopar always likes to say, but like shooting blue base was stupid, and like my only other issue is not even pack related. It's like play related, like people cheating, like that. Everything else was amazing. Packs were amazing. The maze was amazing. Like genuinely, like world settings were really enjoyable. Like the strategy required was amazing. Like, I'm sorry, I'm just going on a tangent, but I'm like, Worlds was like really fun for me. Like I really enjoyed it. So
it's a good point. I think we're saying
that's good.
We're definitely saying
Blacks, you weren't enjoying it for half the comp.
but like I just said, it's for personal mental ill issues about like people cheating and stuff, and I just need to like calm the fuck down. Like
I think we're saying Worlds settings gain more appreciation in Australia. It's still probably never going to replace Zoltec, and it shouldn't replace Zoltec, but I think we're seeing a lot more people a lot more open to it after this competition, and everyone started training with it. So it's a nice shift to see both things being valued in Australia.
Yeah.
I also think that like H2 as well. H2 is like so much more enjoyable than Pro. Like you need to aim, you need to the phaser shots, like the sound, being able to hear people. I couldn't hear anything last night, and I was like, they're standing right next to me, like. But it's just like, oh, H2 is just like perfect comp format.
They turned the packs up really loud for this competition, and it burst some speakers, but like I think it's worth it for competitions if the site is happy to buy like 1 or 2 speakers, and you have a tech ready to fix it, because like it's so being able to hear people shouldn't be a skill, and being able to call to mask your packs shouldn't be a thing. So having the packs loud, so much better of an experience.
And you can't pack mask, even if you try. Like with the speaker on 2, it's impossible. Pro last night, people are literally just turning around and just like, you can't hear me, dickhead. And I'm like, I hate this. I can't be asked.
Yeah, there's definitely a bug in H Pro Ozone at the moment with the sound, because we used to have the sound on Pro packs turned up to like 21 out of 25 or whatever it was, and we could hear them. And for the last like year or so, or 2 years on our Pro packs, we just can't fucking hear them. I'm dreading going back to them
at Lawton, so like, that's not. Well,
then, we're playing we're probably playing even quieter than you are, because like our Pro packs are almost impossible to hear now, and like no matter what you do to the audio, it doesn't change the volume of the React sound. Like I don't know what's going on, but it's a massive pain. So I hope they don't have that issue at Sunshine Coast. I didn't play prenet, so you tell me.
It was actually fine, genuinely fine at prenets.
Oh, that's good, because you couldn't do it with the Pro packs we have here. Like no way.
There's some guys in Europe who have been saying the same thing in Sweden. So it might be a thing if it's a couple of sites pointing it out.
Yeah. It's not too bad though. It just means you need to just up the volume a little bit. Like you just up it more than you used to. is pretty much where it's at.
Well, I don't think we could get a satisfactory volume out of them at all.
Oh, okay. No, that's valid.
Yeah.
Because H2 is definitely louder than pros. So like H2,
Oh, yeah.
ours got quieter. So we're like, we'll just up it more. But yeah, no, that does sound like an issue for pro.
All right, guys, we've got to move on to the things that didn't work. And what better place to start? Mouldy, tell us what happened, mate, with the lights. The official competition, one of the official competition organizers, like official legal response.
Okay, so everything I said at the comp is true and remains true. There was no agenda. There was no secret Cobra's conspiracy. The laser tag memes page can fuck right off. And we honest to God, we had no idea. So this is what I'll be honest about exactly what we knew going into the comp. Okay, so we knew that there were DMX lights on the base doors that flashed the color of the person taking the base, and everyone knew that playing the comp. If you didn't figure that in training, you're special. Okay, everyone knew that. There were 4 other lights in the corners of the maze, and they would flash the color of the base that was being taken, right? So if I was taking blue base, they would flash blue. And that is all that we knew. We tried to figure out if they were doing something else once we heard about the pre-nuts 1 lights. But maybe Runt, you can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but as far as I'm aware, what actually was the case that only 2 out of those 4 lights were set to show the winning team, and 1 of them wasn't working.
Yeah.
So there was 1 corner of those 4 that was actually showing the winning team the whole time. Given that we never play team games in New Zealand because we don't have the numbers and nobody spotted it at open, we had no idea until I saw, I think was it Guinea, pull Danny aside to be like, what's going on with the lights? We had absolutely no clue. Yeah.
Right. And so, but players found out about it?
Allegedly, yeah. So, I mean, I heard a few things, right? Because I heard that some people figured it out in training and kept their mouth shut. And I'm not going to name which teams I heard with that, because I later had people from those teams telling me that, oh, no, we only heard about it a couple of games ago. So I'm not going to throw anyone under the bus for that. But what I heard early on was just, oh, Queensland knew the whole time. So maybe Wax can speak to that. But yeah, as far as I'm aware, as soon as Danny was made aware that it was an issue, there was a big, massive discussion with Mopar, and I don't know if you were involved in this, Runt or Twinkles, and then people went into the maze for like stopped the day for like half an hour. They came out, and the captains were told. I think the captains voted on whether to turn it off or not.
So
and then
we voted on
Yeah.
whether to turn it off and whether to turn it off now or later.
Yeah.
But we're told we weren't sure how long it was going to take to fix. But then Wayne, the goat that is the side up, just like unplugged him in 5 minutes and it was fine. So yeah, it was a pretty quick fix.
Yeah.
And Queensland knowing, like we 100% didn't know, but the other teams, like, I'm pretty sure knew. So
I mean, Cyrex is still in chat. You could tell us, Cyrex. When did you guys know?
realistically, I don't think it matters. Like it,
No,
obviously,
it's
it
irrelevant,
matters.
yeah.
It matters, but like it doesn't matter that much because my only thing is like the way that Mopar talks about it is like this is the thing we need to look out for every maze now, and I think that's fair. But I just hate the fact that people found it and didn't question anything or tell anyone because like it just feels like it's something that if you find something so important like a light telling you who's winning, who at a pre-nats just previously we decided that was too strong that we're not going to use them. It's like just tell someone so that it can be fixed or like something can happen.
I do stand by though. Watching pre-nats, I kept on saying, I swear this is making laser tag dumber.
Literally,
watching all you guys
100%.
play pre-nats 1, it just looked like the dumbest laser tag I'd seen. And I don't know if there's any
was
correlation, but it
terrible.
felt like the Queensland teams that maybe knew about it were underperforming in the first few days when they had the lights and nobody else did. But then when the lights turned off, again, it would just be a coincidence, but then they all got like started doing better, and it's like, so I don't know if they're playing dumber or what it was, but yeah.
Was it Cascade 1 where it got like halfway through Cascade 1 where it got turned off?
Yeah. It doesn't
Yeah,
matter
so-
if you know about the lights if you're sucking, like if you're just playing like shit, right? Like you're just gonna lose anyway. Like, oh, I know I'm losing. Cool. Thanks, lights. Shut the fuck up. Like I already know. Like, but that's why it didn't matter because these teams sucked at first. So like, the lights did nothing for them. And it's just like, I just don't understand where it's just like, I obviously was mad about it in the captain's meeting at first, and I like said some wild shit. No good. But I believe Mouldy that the Cobras didn't actually know.
He definitely.
But it's just like these people who knew about it, not telling anyone, not questioning if the Cobras knew. Like,
well,
I
mean, look, to be clear, I mean, Cyrix has just said in chat is that they saw it in Cascade 1 and told Mopar, and that's when it got fixed. So
I know
do we
people
actually
knew from the start, like instantly as soon as they started training. So,
okay.
but
Well, if that's true, yes, those people are unfortunate. Then again, I can see if you feel like you've got an advantage in the comp, not wanting to give it up. But yeah, I don't think there should be anything secret like that, right? Like, we would never put anything in the maze that's secret. We wouldn't put any cupboard shots in. We wouldn't put any secret reflex in. Like, we, no one who wants to win like that. Like, it's crazy. Yeah.
100%.
Well, Wax, I fully support you in your going ape shit at the comp. I probably would have maybe not gone as ape shit as you, but I would have gone my version of ape shit.
I didn't go that crazy. I just accused them of knowing. Like, I was just straight up. Because I was like, this is bullshit. Like, there's no way
you accused the Cobras of knowing?
Yeah. Like, in the captain's meeting. I was like, this is not real. Like,
well, no, my perspective on it is that when you find that kind of stuff, it has to be reported immediately because it has the potential to undermine the whole trust in the whole competition system. Like, if you're a new team coming in, like the Roosters or, in Europe, they've just had the Latvian start and it's their first comp, and the first experience they have with our whole competition scene is that people like are actively cheating and not telling people. Like, it's just like not a good thing for our
as soon as it happened, Hacker was in the room because he was the captain. I literally asked Hacker, like, is this a thing that's ever happened in Europe? Is there drama like this? And he said no. And he's like, this is weird as fuck or something. And I'm like,
Well,
like, this is a bad image.
I disagree because I heard about a Euro comp, and this is really funny. Where there was a team playing in like some area in Elim, and everyone's like, "Oh, why are they playing there? That's a weird area to play in Elim." And then another team started there, and they could see the scoreboard through like some tiny little nook in the wall, and they're like, "Oh, that's why they keep on playing there."
Jesus Christ.
So I think there is some sneaky stuff around the world, but yeah.
But it's interesting though, right? So if I'm a competition organizer now, like, and I'm going to any site that has DMX, I'm going to need like their programming for their DMX because it needs to be kind of audited, because they could have a light sequence that isn't red, blue, or green winning, but still gives the, if the lights flash like this, it indicates that red's winning. If the lights flash like that, it indicates, like, they could have anything in there. So like I think the DMX light settings need to be audited in any venue that's having a comp now by somebody who's objective or neutral or whatever. It's just a thing we're going to have to do to make sure this kind of stuff doesn't happen, essentially. Is that what Mopar was kind of inferring when he was saying all this stuff needs to be checked?
Are you talking to me?
Oh, anybody. Because he said, didn't you say Mopar mentioned that the DMX settings are going to have to be checked in all the comps now going forward?
Or he just said it to me as in, like, we should be looking for them because it's part of the maze now. Like, it's not like it's on us to find them. No,
because people can hide things. It's like saying if you have a secret button in the arena that is completely invisible, but you know where to push on a wall, and like an opening opens up and you can shoot directly into the base, that's somehow fair because everybody had access to it. Like, it's a secret thing that only certain people with insider knowledge would know, and any secret thing with that requires insider knowledge shouldn't be part of the game.
Yeah, agreed. Like, they were literally on the walls in that maze. There are power switches for each base, and I know where they all are, which is obviously an extreme example, and you'd never turn your own base off. But like, that is the extreme version of what Bootza is talking about, right? I'm not familiar with the Ozone software when it comes to DMX, but honestly, if there's a button in Ozone that just says "Do not do any DMX" full stop, like, that would be cool, right?
Yeah. Or even anything related to the winning team or winning scores. Like, you can, it's okay that those things flash when people are shooting. I like the fact that I can see who's shooting the base, actually. Like, it's kind of like, oh, I know it's my team shooting the base. Don't team deny.
It's good for safety. It's good for safety as well. It stops everybody running in.
A little bit. It's I don't find many people actually looked at the lights before running in. They just sort of sent it.
You should. You
Yeah,
you
well,
should.
no,
It's like,
I just mean like there's so
I
much
just feel like
flashing
you
that
lose precious time. Like,
Yeah.
there's not enough time to be like, I'm
Yeah.
gone. Like, it's just like you commit to it and you have the awareness that this is your teammate or this is a person talking who two-shot denied their teammate in finals. But you just like do it in a way where you either hesitate because you're not sure or you just like, if someone's here and they're shooting, you should know. Like, it shouldn't be like a random thing.
Yeah, I'd rather look at the pack lights. Get in, look at the pack lights. And,
well, let me give you an example from this arena, right? Like you could have one in default and one at the sneak on the lot, the long shot, the sneak, and you could think your team is taking from the default, and then suddenly you notice the light is flashing the wrong color, but you know that your team is still in default. So now you know from looking at the light that you need to go and shoot out the sneak. I think that's cool.
Do you just have enough time though? Like if you
You absolutely, it's a long time to take the base, and you can start running towards a door,
I
see the
reckon-
color, and then abort. Like you can. It depends where you're standing, right, when the base starts going down. But
I reckon what it is like I'm not saying it's a home side advantage, but it's like you've played there a lot and you have that awareness to look out for the lights like subconsciously. Whereas
it's really hard to train your brain to do it. for
yeah,
sure.
we just don't. We hear base going down, and our reaction is to go look at who's shooting, as opposed to look at the doorways. So I think it is a really good thing to have, and for those sites where
If it becomes standard across comp sites, then I think you would see people making use of it in the long run.
yeah.
My only experience with it is Gaza looking at it, realizing it's not his teammate, and then not having enough time to two-shot deny. And I just like have PTSD of that. But maybe it's like works in situations like you said.
Cool. What's next, Boots?
Was there anything else that anybody thought didn't work so great during the comp?
Well, a lot of people. Should we talk about Wingman? Because we
Yeah,
haven't
let's
actually
do
spoken
it.
about it yet. Because I'm gonna start positively because this shit fucked. Like I loved Wingman. Like it was an enjoyable tournament. Like the way it was played was really good. The elimination stage, like whatever it was, like the lower high bracket was really fun. Like honestly, one of my favorite like formats. Like it was really enjoyable, except for the middle maze. Some of the time it was fun. Some of the time it was not fun. But like literally goated format. Don't know why everyone's crying. Like was really fun.
You're my hero, X. For saying that.
What
There
was
was
the
so
middle
much
different?
whinging. Oh my god, unbelievable.
Before you tell me
Tears.
about all the whinging, because I've not heard any feedback about Wingman, so I'm so curious to get the full list of whinging. But like, what was the different about them? I can see visually that it's different. The middle X. Why did it play different?
There's no extra place to go and hide or make a play. Like you're literally exposed everywhere. You can have people stand in opposite corners and they can see you no matter where you are.
Oh, so on the
Whereas-
other X's, you can play the panels a bit, can you?
You can play the reload and you can play inside that V that's
Ah.
covered by the pink bits you see on the map there.
Yeah.
And they definitely give you options.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're
I
small.
think actually for me, the biggest thing is the like on the bottom base, the two little walls close to the X, like are too close to the X. So there's not enough dueling space there to actually like have a really good in the middle, in the bottom of the X there. Like it's hard to duel there. And a lot of the fights were there. And you would see a lot of people like coming around on them, but they couldn't because there was so many walls and it was just really tight. Where on the other two, the X's were actually perfectly positioned to like perfectly do loops and do duels and do. I like didn't touch the reload. I would touch the foil spot sometimes if I needed to, but like the reload was just a death spot. But the X's up top were better just because the spacing. So
And yeah, they are small panels, but the ability to separate the other two players, because you could get enough distance between them where they couldn't both, because what you'd have in the middle ring is you'd have both alive players chasing one dead player and they'd chase the other dead player and they'd go back and forth, and that's pretty much impossible to break out of. Whereas with the extra panels, you could get enough distance between you that they had to split up and fight you one-on-one. So
Yeah.
small panels, but it made a huge difference in the capacity to break that cycle a little bit more. With the oppressive blackpacking though, it was still quite hard to break it, but very doable in those top rings.
All right, Mouldy, give it to us. What was the laundry list of whinging?
I think most of it comes from that bottom ring, right? Exactly what Runt just said, like the fact that you can't get back up because, you know, in law you can get back up one-on-one. Getting up on when two people are pointing at you is very, very, very difficult unless you like cheat like crazy. And even if you're cheating facing one player, the other player is going to shoot you from the other side. So, a lot of those games in that ring went to shit, right? Where you would come out either having been decimated or you'd come out winning with 18 lives. I think I did that in one game in that ring. Like, it's just insane. Yeah, I think we had some people pull out just before the comp started, and then we had one pair play 3 out of 6 games and then lost them all, decided they didn't want to stick around to finish it out because it was going to be another 2 hours, and just quit midway through the event. So there were a lot of buys as well, which was like not that exciting, and it was a little unfair about like maybe who got a buy and who didn't, because it was this harsh top 16 cutoff to get into that ladder. And I think, you know, some people, I don't think anyone got in because they had a buy, but like there's that perception, right? And you want to avoid that kind of shit in your draw if you can. So that was disappointing. And then I think a lot of people, especially people maybe coming from no lockout, this playing with, you know, 4-second react, 2-second deac, 2-second stun, even in the good rings, if you're just not good at it, you're gonna get shat on, and that doesn't feel good. Even though it's only being shat on for a minute and a half, let's be honest. And people just, yeah.
So you played this
cried about it.
4-second Diac.
So it's 4-second deac, 2-second stuns, 2 stuns to kill, 1 shot per second.
2 stuns to kill.
Yeah, so you could go stun and then kill, but like it works when it works, it works really well, right? Because if you stun someone, you can't then necessarily go and help your teammate get the other one before they spawn if you're sequencing them. Like if you stun, you have to commit and finish, and then your teammate has to play a 1v1. Yeah, it works really well when it works. We have played it without 60, and it works really, really well for that. With that tiny ozone black pack window you get on Pro. I think Helios 2 on 2.5, I think it would work even better potentially, where you can still black pack, but it's harder. And we had some people recommend maybe 1 shot per 2 seconds, like Elam. I think that's interesting. I'd have to play it to see how it would go. You might want to twiddle the other timings if you did that. It might make the game feel too slow though. But the thing I love about this game is it's so physical and it's so fast and it's brawly and it's brutal. And it's so interesting to play and watch in the good rings compared to lore for me. Like I'm very over lore as a format. This was literally created to be a better to spectate and more fun to play than lore, right? That's why the format came about in the first place.
Yeah, I'd play this. I wouldn't play lore, but I'd play this.
I think one of my favorite things was like actually being able to, when the 2 people would follow, if their sequencing was slightly off and you could hide and they wouldn't exactly know where you were when you were dead, and then you could help your teammate. The like team play was amazing in this.
Yeah.
Like it was so much fun. And like I don't like 60 MS lockout made this more interesting. 100% in my opinion. If this was no lockout, we'd just be playing this like ring around the rosy, dueling on the things, doubling, and it wouldn't be as like intense, where like everything you do in this wingman game matters, and it feels amazing and it feels rewarding, and like helping your teammate, even just getting a stun on someone can mean you win the next exchange, because then your teammate's timing is slightly better and they spawn at a different like, it's just, I actually had so much fun. I really enjoyed this format, and hearing everyone cry about it like really threw me off. And I'm like, am I the weirdo? Like, what is happening? Like, this was amazing.
Yeah.
What would you do? What would you have done differently, Mouldy, to if you were to run the event again? Would you make any changes?
I would just move the X up in the bottom ring, and I would put a couple of panels in the corners coming out, so you had somewhere to kind of go and hide, and that would be it. Because I do love the format. I think it played really good in those other rings,
and probably
even though
slightly less black packing window. Like still definitely there, but slightly less.
Yeah, like you could twiddle with it, but like the thing is, you don't want to have different black pack windows across a comp. That's a discussion about the overall setting.
Yeah, no, it's just the H2 things. Yeah.
Just one thing I want to highlight for Wingman about, like Wax was just saying how tactical it is in the team play. if you look at which team came second in this event, I'm going to talk about Rogue and Hatman. Hatman obviously had a really good comp. He's a top player in general, and he's a top player in this maze. Rogue is very good. She's come a long way, but she's not normally what you associate with an A player, right? Across the whole comp. But what they were able to do, the way they played that format to get to second place, beating out a lot of top teams in the process, including Ace and Guinea, who are like a crazy good pair. And I even think they probably held up best against Runt and Twinkles compared to anybody else. I think in their first game they took them down to like 5-4 or something. And I don't think anybody else did that. It just shows actually how much skill there is in the tactics of this format. That it's not just about can you run fast enough to black pack everyone. Like it's how good is your timing and your dodging, yes, but also your positioning and your sequencing. And for Hatman to take a very good B player to a second place trophy is crazy. And it just shows that if you know what you're doing, you know, you can do well. And if you're not winning, maybe stop whinging and get better at the format.
Just to finish up on it, do you reckon is it fair to say it's like if you're trying to teach say an intermediate player on how to get to the elite level of like working tactically with another player,
This is
around the
it.
arena?
This is it. 100%. We started doing it in training before we went to Worlds, but without the 4-second respawn, as just like a 2v2 drill, like around a couple walls and stuff. And it was amazing without like all the tactics, like, and just adding all these tactics and it becoming like an actual like event. It just makes it so much more interesting.
Yeah, I hope we see it again because I want to play it now. Now you've given it a good rap wax. I'm keen. Let's do it. All right. Okay, guys, we should talk about some teams. And first team,
real quick, could I just highlight? I think it was really cool having doubles there, but I don't think the regular doubles format needs to be at Worlds. I don't know what your guys' thoughts are about this.
It felt really weird playing it randomly. Like just everything else was on one shot and stuns, and then just having that there just felt, it was fun and it kind of worked well in the maze. It just felt odd. Like
That's fair. So I was heavily involved in the decision to have it there. Like the council voted to approve it basically unanimously. There were one or two detractors, but it was pretty. People wanted it, and unfortunately, a lot of those people who wanted it then didn't show at the tournament because the idea was that while Ziltak is only one country out of 6 to 10 that play competitively, so why should our settings get any show? Ziltak is really big. And the Australian players have proven that they're good across the board at all formats now. So the idea was to kind of expose the EU and the USA to that format a little bit. And I personally love Ziltak doubles. Whenever I play Ziltak, I have good years and bad years, but it's a super fun format, and I think it works well with the 2-shot. So I was happy to have it at the comp. In retrospect, like my thinking now is I want to cut as many side events as possible.
Yeah.
I'm kind of over side events. Even Wingman was fun. At least it was kind of short. But like if I could cut like solos, doubles, and maybe even Wingman out of that comp and just have lore doubles and Wingman and just have the 2-team formats and solos, because you kind of have to have solos. I probably would, in spite of how good Wingman is or how fun doubles might be.
Yeah, so let's get on to the teams then.
Let's get on to teams. All right. So let's talk about Issa Marksa to begin with. They start off really well. They finished not probably where they would have hoped. Tell us about what happened, how they played, and their competition.
as soon as we watched the first training game, Runt knows exactly what I'm talking about. The first training game where it was Runt, it was Vikings, Isamasa, and who was the third team? Was it Aftershock?
Something like that, yeah.
And
If
Vikings had like 45k, and whoever the other two had like 15k. And I was like, oh god, is this gonna be the thing? But that's just the start. Like versing them was really interesting because they all look like they don't care at all points. They just like, I don't know if that's just like Finnish things, but they just look like they do not care about laser tag in the maze.
Yeah, I think this comp was very much a fun one for them. It was very evident on like the last day that like this wasn't any of their actual teams, and they were just here for a good time. So I think they didn't really like analyze and fix their mistakes as much as like they probably would do on their actual teams and stuff. So what we got was kind of just a hyper aggressive team where just attackers just go like shooting bases, and they're really good at shooting bases. And the defenders like just like run around and shoot stuff, but they didn't have much like complex stuff going on because again they're not really a team, so they don't. And they also had 7 players, so they weren't really going to find that like high tier rhythm that they needed to find. So they were just like running around shooting stuff really good. And some of their individually, that some of their players were like absolutely exceptional. Like they would be some of the hardest people to spawn on because they chase you down so well and always maintain those black packs. Like I could not spawn anywhere near Smeagol or like Elku. They would chase me down so well, so much better than like most of the Australian and NZ players. So like individually, like you can see their pack and pack skill is really cool. But as a team, like they're just there for a good time.
One of the things they sort of said before coming in as well, that they didn't really have any of their usual captains, did they? They didn't really have. There was no captain on the team. Yeah.
And that was
Sorry,
a big
Mouldy,
thing while talking to Hacker. He like really pushed for that. That was one of the big issues that they had, is no one wanted to captain, and they didn't have anyone that was literally like they were barely captaining, from what Hacker was saying. Like Hacker was, and what we could see as well, like a lot of what was their game plan seemed to be was Hacker plays solos for the first little bit. If it goes good, W. If it goes bad, I take people like, and it just seemed to be the same thing most games, and there wasn't like much variation from what I could see when I did watch their games.
They also had the funniest 7-person team structure because they just sent 5 to the site and 2 would stay home, and that was just the funniest thing ever to me.
It was wild, and the fact that like Smeagol, who arguably for me is probably their second or third best pack player on the team, sat a full day. I think was it Cascade 2?
Cascade 2, he sat.
He sat all of Cascade 2, and like the dad, I can't pronounce his alias very well, but he is very good. But like Smeagol, I think is better, and it's like you sat one of your best players for a full day. It's crazy. And their Cascade 2 was such a drop because they climbed to third after Cascade 1 because I think they were a little. Well, I thought they were underranked going into Cascade 1, but their Cascade 2 drop in their finals performance was right back there at like 9th place or something.
They lit Smeagol on the awards night. I was like, "What happened yesterday? Why weren't you here?" He's like, "Oh, I was chilling at home eating hot dogs." And I'm like, "What? Did you just not want to play?" And he's like, "Nah, I just didn't want to. Like, I was just chilling. Like, I had food. I was just at home sunbathing." And I'm like, "What? We're here to play laser tag. What's going on?"
Yeah.
Bizarre. Yeah.
Wow.
I will say they had some individually insanely impressive players. Like we can talk about Hacker in a bit as being the best player in the world. Sorry, Runt. But like apart from him and like Smeagol, Elku for me was like the most unexpected thing. Because while there are lots of really good female laser tag players, it's rare to see them with a pack skill dominance that high. And the way she moved and chased down and snuck around the maze and then still black packed the shit out of you, like, was really surprising to me. And to get 4th in solos at Worlds as well against that field, crazy. Yeah.
Awesome. So what is it? Is it Hacker v Runt? What's the consensus, everybody?
I'm actually trying to think about me watching Hacker play, and I don't think I saw him play like at all. Like, genuinely zero information of what even happened except for his dot like running around. Like,
I think you could absolutely argue that Hacker is a better solos player than Runt. They came to the same comp in a neutral maze
On my packs.
on Helios 2, and they play pro in Finland, right?
Yeah.
And like Runt is no stranger to lockout or to world settings at all. But and Hacker won, so I think fair cop to him. I don't think I would argue that Hatman is a better solos player than Runt. He had the homemade advantage. He played very, very, very well, but I think I'll give Runt the edge on that one. But yeah, Hacker was great.
Did you come up against Hacker much, Runt? And what was your experience of playing one-on-one against him?
One-on-one, it's the same as everyone. If you're up, you win. If you're down, you lose. This was the packs. But yeah. So it was 1v1s weren't that interesting with him, but yeah, no, very, very good. Like, and he earned that solos win. It was bloody amazing. He worked like a spot in the middle of the maze where he was being able to be seen by everyone, and he managed the sightlines really well to create like a really good run for himself. And yeah, his positional awareness in the solos game was bloody immaculate. So he was, yeah, full props to him.
I asked the question because everybody probably wants to hear it, but really the whole who's the best player thing is such a reductionist way to look at it, because there's a collection of so many skills needed. And like we already, Hacker was saying already, oh, we got no captain here, nobody wants to captain. So clearly, like, on a captaining perspective, and from that perspective, Runt's a more superior player, but Hacker went in there and won the solos and proved that he's probably one of the best just go around and shoot people players going around.
I think he's undeniably like the best solos player in the world by far. Like, he's been dominating Europe for so long, and then came and won this. Like, solos, Hacker is by far the GOAT of the world right now.
But that doesn't mean you're the best overall player in the world. It just means you're the best solos player in the world. I'd love to see Hacker play with his whatever his current top team is that he plays on. I want to see how he plays a real game that the whole team has got a common goal and a captain, and they're trying to win. Like, I want to see how Hacker plays in that scenario, because based on this comp, I don't think you could say Hacker's close to Runt overall, or Wax, or Husky.
You couldn't say much
as a rounded player. You
Yeah.
can't say much because you haven't seen how he performs in the right setting. You know.
Well, on his team, Mega Friends, they've been incredibly successful, and they have a dedicated captain who's renowned in Europe as being one of the best thinkers. So, yeah, I think that's
when you can see it, Mouldy.
He'll be
next year at Germany. He can see with his own eyes.
I'm keen. I'm going. That's gonna be good because Mega Friends will play, right? And three of these marks are on Mega Friends, I think.
Yeah.
Is it Elko and Smeagol?
And Minerva.
No,
definitely Elko. I'm not sure about Smeagol.
Minerva and
Minerva. Okay.
And Elko. Smeagol does not play lace tag, I don't think. Much. That's what he said to me.
Yeah.
So
they've got another guy called Keps that plays with
them.
him.
But Keps can't.
I've heard of Keps. Yeah.
Keps can't play because he's from a different place. He's from Sweden.
I didn't think they'd come to a final decision on that. The council.
Yeah. Well, maybe they haven't decided yet, but that's what they're deciding, I think. And then if they don't have Keps, they're not used to playing with other people, so it might be weird.
I cannot wait for that competition.
It's going to be
the best comp. I think that's going to be the best comp we've ever seen next year in Euros. It's just the teams that are going, and if you were to pick the best Australian team that we could possibly put together, I think we're doing it. And it's the first time we've ever done it. We've never done that before. So
yeah,
man, get your popcorn.
There's an argument that the team that's going for Australia to Eurochamps is the team that should have played this comp. And I think if that team had played this comp, they would have won by a country mile. Cobra's easy second, and then somebody else in third.
So that was the actual idea at first, right? So we were going to play, it was me, Twinkles, Runt, CB, Spider, and it was literally the exact same team, and a Husky. And that was going to be the world's team. But then we decided that it would just literally be like, nothing would happen. Like, it would just be too...
We could not have beaten that team. Yeah, we could not have beaten that team.
Yeah, I think everybody's glad you didn't do that.
Yeah, instead it was a really fun comp with like a top three that was super close.
The closest finals I've ever seen or played in. It was insane.
It was so much fun.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about the Roosters quickly. Yeah, I mean, they came from a completely different format, style of play, and came and gave it a crack. What was their experience like? What kind of people were they?
They were all really nice. But two of them couldn't speak much English, so it was kind of even hard to like give them terms in games and stuff. But they were like, from what I could see and from what Gypsy was telling me, like they were having a lot of fun and like they really enjoyed everything, and they felt like the improvement and they were learning so much. Like, was really like fun to watch. I think at first they might have had a higher expectation than they definitely should have. Like one of them jokingly messaged Shipsy about winning the entire thing, and it's just like it's just a funny meme that like this guy's like, "Aha! I come to this tournament and I'm gonna get the freest win." It's just a meme. But I think like the progression of from what we saw at first to what we got at the end, like might not have been amazing difference, but like they definitely were playing as a team better and like doing the things that all these other players have done forever, and they looked like way more cohesive together and stuff, and it was like really fun to watch and stuff. And like them winning, getting second place, everyone in the lobby was like hyped as fuck. Like it was so good.
Yeah, they pitched a couple of games to second, didn't they?
Yeah,
2
Yeah,
games
they
or
did.
something?
I think when you isolated them into something like lore as well, like their players, I don't know if any of them made the top bracket, but like they were a lot more comparable with all the other players. Like because in terms of just pack on pack, like they can shoot stuff pretty well.
Yeah, they
they
could black pack. They had the timing. Some of I don't know if all four had the timing, but some of them definitely could black pack in the arena as well. Yeah.
I remember like their defense was way harder to run around than a lot of other teams' defenses because they just chase you and they'd keep you down, and like it was surprising because we had no
That's the
idea.
way they play right at home. They play 4 shots a second, so that's what they do. They chase people and keep them down.
Yeah, because you look at the scores and you're like expecting them to like have no pack skill, but their pack skill was there. It's just everything else they
Was
they
missing.
didn't have the experience in. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
They got
literally
termed
the
less
first.
than I thought.
Yeah, I think people were being nicer, but yeah, 100%.
Yeah, but to be fair, they were getting termed for like stuff like trigger flicking, which wasn't even meant to be a rule there. So they got
Yeah, I'm not
overturned
happy
that
about
actually.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. The first game that we played, Vikings and Vantage played, Roosters were the third team. And I don't know what the fuck they took before the game, but they locked the fucking,
Dude,
and they did
right?
not let us get their base.
That was the only game we versed them, and they were solid. Like they were so much more solid than most of the other third
Literally.
teams in those sort of games. Like it was wild.
It was crazy. Like I was so worried before the game that we were just like you were just gonna farm them, and they just did so well to like they didn't lose a base like for ages, and they just like it was like crazy.
When I was watching the first day on the round robin, I know their scores started off like they're getting sub 15s I think at one stage, but they picked it up real quick. Like within sort of 3 or 4 games, they were cracking 30s, and I know it looked like they were learning at a pretty good rate.
Yeah, they didn't.
I think they cracked 40
either.
a couple times, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They didn't train. Like Isn't Markstar only trained for one day, but French didn't even train. They just rocked up and played round robin.
Wowzers, that was their training. Well, hopefully we see him again. Will we see him at Euros?
I did speak to them before they left, and they were very interested in trying to take like team games and the format back home. So they're going to try 2 of them, I think, play at the same site, and the other 2 play at a different site. And 2 of them have a bigger scene. And I think they're going to try and like push for all these changes and stuff to their formats and stuff because they had a lot of fun.
That's awesome.
I mean, good luck to them.
That's
but
huge,
I will say we played in France. We literally played the World Champs. We played in France with 4 teams, and they gave up afterwards. Basically, like it died. Right? They had 4 French teams at a home Worlds playing this format, and they had a great time, and yet they could not make it happen. Right? So I really hope it works out. But what are the odds that one team can and 2 sides?
I think on the plus side, there is a team going to Spain
I think
from France, at least partly a French team. So like they're seeming to be more in the competitive scene, which is good.
I think they've got some very strong figureheads in the French community that are very locked into their style that they're playing, and they've only really had Marion there, like flying the flag for our zone format that we're playing. But the more French players that come along to these tournaments and go back, it's kind of like us trying to get like the world settings to be more loved. Like it's just a slow burn. You just got to keep building at it. So yeah, hopefully they can make some progress there.
Yeah, can I just say huge props to Marion for getting that French team here. Like Marion / Cooper, if you don't know her first name, is absolutely amazing, and she really pushed to get those guys over here. So obviously, mad props to them for coming, but I think Cooper had a lot to do with that. So just want to thank her for that, because it would have been a worse Worlds without having more representation from other countries.
Yeah, it was really fun doing the flags,
absolutely.
and I'm like, oh wait, we can do a French flag. We
Yeah,
can do
so
more
in terms
flags.
of quick
Oh, put
yeah.
some internet speed on.
Did you do a US flag? Because we had the one US player.
No, I did the flags right before the
No.
comp, so that would have been good. Just give their whole team
Emma,
a
is there a problem with
US
my
flag.
audio?
Yeah, you're lagging a lot, but you're very
Oh,
delayed.
okay.
I think you're good now. I think you're good now.
Yeah. Oh, am I?
I think you're fine.
Okay. So what we'll do with the rest of the teams, I was thinking let's talk about some brackets. Yeah, let's talk about brackets. So next bracket, we've got Mouldy. We're going to talk about the New Zealand teams, the non-Cobra ones. They all kind of finished next to each other on the ladder. How did you think they performed compared to what you were
Poorly,
expecting?
to put it as delicately as I can. Look, I think Remnants had some good games, and I think Remnants played about as well as they should have been expected to play. I'm actually really happy with how the Remnants played. And I think the Thunderbirds did some really cool stuff, and they won a few games that maybe they weren't expected to win. I think they got really lucky with just how good the US player was, because I think he did well in law, he had good timing, they were able to use him, and I think some of their more cooked strategies worked out for them. Saying that, they still came fairly low, but they beat the Reapers, which is insane, right? Like, if this is accurate that we're seeing on the screen, they beat the Dunedin A team, and they were a hodgepodge mixed B team of like 3 different sites. So that is huge. The Reapers were really disappointing overall, because they had been really, really strong in their home maze. Their lineup changed a bit. They lost one of their best attackers in Rapid, who came to Aubrey Nets, and I think he's quite impressive there. They didn't have him. And when I watched them play in the maze, it was like not playing the same team. I don't know what was going on with them as a team, but like their defense wasn't that good, their attack wasn't that good. They had 3 players defending a dumped base that they had already taken all 5 of, and they still needed 5 of the other base. And instead of shifting their dump, they just sat 3 people at an empty base who all had it. I don't know what to say. I think they had a much higher potential than what they achieved. So that was not great, because I had really big hopes for them. And then Taniwha, similar story. They topped the New Zealand teams as expected. I thought on paper, and then watching some of their better games, that they had what it took to beat some other international teams, and I think they did win several games against some Australian teams and Isamaksa. But they also, in the end, I think there was a lot of stress on the team, and you watch some of their decision making just kind of fall apart. I think their game they got eliminated, they decided on like a 1-minute dump, which is like exactly not what I would ever do. Like, wait till your base goes down once and then dump. It's kind of a big throw. So I think they were running out of ideas at the end of what to do. I think communication might have fallen apart a little bit, because I know that team could do much better. They all have the skill. There's some really, really good players on that team, and when they're all working together, they're a really hard team to beat. And it just didn't work out for them. I don't know if it was the pressure or just they lost too much of their home advantage. I still think they played well. I just wish for them and for New Zealand that they could have beaten one Australian team. And I know that was their goal as well, was to beat an Australian team would have been really great. So that's a shame. Having said that, like, I don't want to shit all over the Kiwi teams. They all tried their best, and they all had really, really good games. I just think there was a lack of consistency, which is the same with the Cobras, right? Is that these New Zealand teams, they don't get to go to Nats every year like the lower tier Australian teams, and I think that lack of experience showed out in the end.
Honestly, not much. I think a lot of the games just felt.
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Bootza is very delayed, I think.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with Boots.
He said about invites.
Yep, we can now. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, I think he's like 10 seconds delayed because every time he says something, it's like way behind us.
Yeah, I think he's reconnecting now. I just saw a comment in chat from Zygo about Trader as a captain, and I actually don't think that was the problem with their team from the outside. I back Trader as a captain and as a player. I think given some of the kind of pack skill weaknesses at the bottom end of their team, I think he did what he could. I think there are always decisions you can make better as a captain, but if no one else in that team is, I think, up to captaining except maybe Dari, but she's better focused on her brawling anyway. So I think it's just an overall experience and kind of a pack skill issue at the bottom end for them.
Yeah, I think most of these New Zealand teams.
For Wax and Runt, can you guys hear me okay now?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, we could.
I think we can hear him. He's just very delayed. Yeah, I just think the bottom New Zealand teams definitely just like lack a lot of experience. And watching them play, it doesn't feel like even Tanafa. Did I say that right? I don't even know.
Yeah, that's fine.
They would be. The strategy was there, and you'd see the things happening in the maze, but then they would just be yelling because there would be some like disconnect between what they were supposed to be doing and what actually happened because of like kills and stuff. And like you would see like good moments where things would work really well, and like there'd be games that'd be reffing. The amount of times that I reffed when they were on red attacking green, and they would just be walking through green's door. And I have like 2 games specifically that I remember it was really good, and then the next 2 games that I watched from them on red was terrible. 0 comms, everyone's just yelling at each other, like they don't really know what's happening, and it's just like the disconnect was really noticeable there. And like I'm not sure with the other teams, but I do remember Thunderbirds just wait, maybe it was Remnants. Which team was Nitro on?
Remnants.
Remnants was very defensive from what I saw, so I don't know if that was like a good thing or a downfall, or if there was a reason why they were doing that. But every game I saw from them seemed very defensive.
Remnants just suffered from not really having anyone with any significant experience at all at remotely a high level.
Okay.
They're either like Kaz and Nitro have been around for a long time, but they've never played at a high level, and they've never really captained before. And the best pack player on that team in this maze for me was Trady, but he's never played a role beyond shoot all the things and shoot the bases yourself, right? So he's a great player, up and comer, but like none of the team have the experience needed to play the comp at the level that the comp was at. And so I think their result is very expected and very fair, and I don't think they would be unhappy with it at all.
Is any of the positioning of the New Zealand teams, did anything jump out to you, Mouldy, or was it all kind of what you would have put it as?
Well, Thunderbirds beating Reapers was the upset. Like
Okay.
that I think on paper and in reality that shouldn't have happened. It's not good for Reapers.
And yeah, I 100% agree.
Yeah.
It's just crazy to see Isamasa in 10. Holy shit.
Am I still delaying a bit?
Yeah, but
It's
I
hard
think
to
it's
tell when you started talking, but
yeah.
Okay.
I think you're good.
Well, I'll keep my talking to a minimum, but yeah, I'm good. I'm good. Is there any individuals you guys want to shout out from the Kiwi teams? Mainly maybe Runt and Wax, guys that you haven't seen before.
I don't want to be that guy, but I barely saw these guys play.
that's fair. I mean,
I will say like Rogue did.
Yeah.
I saw a lot of Rogue as well. Like Rogue just was she captaining? She was
captaining. Yeah.
Yeah, it felt like a lot of presence in the maze, loud voice, a lot of like good calls, like confident calls from what I could hear. So I think that that's like a real positive for like just having someone who's able to do these things and like control the team and stuff is a really positive thing.
Yeah, I think the team worked best when everyone was on the same page as Rogue and listened to her calls and went with it. All captains have their own issues, but she's really learned how to captain this year, I think. And she just was lacking experience in some games to know what the right call was. But I think something for her that a lot of lower tier captains won't do is that she would still make calls. And a lot of people kind of crumble under pressure and they just refuse to make a call. And I think she did that. So I think she was impressive in the teams in that regard. I'm not sure about Worlds prior to 2014, but she may be among one of the only female players to ever receive a side event trophy or trophy at Worlds at all. So I think this Worlds was huge for her.
Fair enough. Yeah, I don't think I saw enough from anyone else to like actively call him out. 4A's also like
There's definitely no female before 2014. And the only side event trophy I can remember was SIG once. I got a third in solos, I think, in 2009, something like that. That wasn't many side event. There wasn't many trophies at all before 2014 for Australia. Yes.
I'm sorry, Bootza, I can't hear anything you're saying. You're all crackly and
yeah, awesome.
Fucked.
Yeah, she did amazingly. So should we move to the next bracket?
maybe just quickly disconnect and reconnect. But your internet sounds like it's shitting the bed.
I think what he was saying though
Can you
is
hear
let's
me
talk about
now?
one up to
He said-
Isamaxa.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Let's
let's
just
move-
do that. Let's move it
Yeah,
along.
Yeah. Does anything jump out to anyone? Because I feel like from watching what was happening, like Isamasu definitely jumped out.
One up to Dragons because we've done Isamaxa.
Yep.
I think it all kind of jumps out a little bit. I think Dragons are a bit lower than predicted, and I think One Up were really good.
Dragons, I think I remember like listening to them after the stream and predictions. I think they were thinking they were like expecting to do a lot better. So I think it kind of unfurled for them a bit this comp.
Yeah, Dragons, I think the format difference makes a lot. It's a big difference. And I think Nufa is very famously against the one shot per second. And just whatever strategy worked so well for them in Augury, it just was not present here, unfortunately. Because they have so many strong players, right? Like Gus Nufa and like VG Master is also cooked. He's so good. But then like playing cohesively as a team, whatever they had earlier this year, they just didn't seem to have it as much at this comp.
All I'm saying is I put them in 8th, so like I was right.
Yeah, well done. Yeah, I think they had 7 as well, though, right? And that's hard.
Yeah, and
I
think
think 7 is a mistake. Yeah,
they said that Nickel wasn't playing too much, but then that
played a
definitely
lot,
was
right?
not what happened. Can you find the spread run? Yeah, like
Isn't
it's
that?
pretty even.
Yeah.
Except Shifter didn't play much because of her injury, right? She got injured on the second last day.
Yeah, ankle
I think-
injury was it for Shifter?
Ankle
Yeah, I
and
think
back. I think they were having a rough comp.
I just didn't see much from Dragons either. Like it feels like they just avoided us perfectly. I think we versed them once or twice maybe, and it felt like they were just not comfortable with the settings, not comfortable with lockout, and the maze maybe as well because the snipes and stuff they weren't. It wasn't like what Dragons are good at, like the brawling. I feel like it works for VG, but the rest of them not as.
Yeah,
much.
I mean, Gus had a good.
Do
comp, I
Dragons
think,
rely on-
overall.
Yeah. Do Dragons rely on like solidified attacks? I'm wondering if they just got punished when they like committed attacks, whereas this is a bit more shift your whole team into an attack kind of thing and work with your team a lot. So it might have punished them a bit there, but that's just speculation. Again, I didn't see enough.
Yeah, well, I mean, Dragons have always done a lot of like bounce dumps or these like really fast run-ins with a lot of players, and on 60 lockout, it's not good. You just all die on your way in, and then you get fucking sequenced until you leave. Like it's hard to win games doing that. Yeah. CV makes the point that their tag ratios are all actually pretty good. And
Maybe they were just losing too
are.
many bases or something. Maybe they couldn't defend well. Shifter's usually under, so maybe she wasn't as used to being out of the base.
Yeah, their bases 4 are actually pretty good as well. But if you, I don't know, because I don't think they dump as much as they used to. But if you force the game into high base, but you still don't get as many as everyone else, you're gonna lose anyway. They didn't get denied that much. Their tags were all like at the top end were pretty good. Like a lot of their players have similar or much better stats than like the bottom half of Cobras, and yet there was such a stark contrast in our team performance.
What did their total tags look like?
They're high 40s or 50s, and just the bottom 3 players in the 30s. That's maybe the bottom end of their team not getting enough points, feeding too many points, and maybe losing too many bases, like if dropping defense. Because their attack seems like it would be strong, right? Like VG and Gus Shop at your base, like you're definitely under threat.
Yeah, so 0.9s. How does that compare to what you guys went at, Runt? What did you guys go at?
0.9, sorry, what? 0.9 base average? Or
Yeah. What was...
Wait.
Base average.
Base average? Like 1.4, 1.3.
Oh, yeah. So, 1.1s, 1.2s. Yeah, so they're probably their primary attackers look like they're just slightly under the top teams.
Yeah,
for base average.
Yeah,
well,
they're going to be good bases against
playing...
for the team.
Yeah, I think VG was playing a bit more of a passive role than he was in Aubrey. Like from his tag ratio being so high, I don't think you can achieve that as in that aggressive role that you can in. Or maybe he's just the goat. I'm not sure, but from memory, I think he was playing the bottom X a lot and just like a bit more passive, which was probably a good play, but it meant that they might not have had that attacking force on the green base or something. It's probably a bit too much speculation at this level, though.
I feel like it's just full from what we know from Dragon. It's just like their entire game style just probably didn't translate well into this maze. And I could see that being a very large issue for them and not being able to coordinate people, because I feel like from what I see from Dragons, a little bit of not always listening to the exact comm and stuff, and maybe their like just cohesion was off, and which I think you needed in this maze somewhat.
Yeah, I agree. Cohesion's key. Can we talk about 1UP?
Yep.
Just moving on
yeah.
from Dragons, because like I think we all put 1UP in 9th from memory on our predictions based on some of their Zeltak performances and Prenet's performance recently, and the fact that they never ever train and they never play, even with the Spider pickup, and actually the result that they got, they came 6th, right? I think it's really notable for people who don't train. For people who don't train, I think it's a really good result. Our initial game against us, we put them to like 10k, and I think we did it almost again in another game. So I was thinking across the week that I wasn't following them very closely, that they were getting quite dicked, and then to see them come out that high is excellent. Yeah, really good result.
I think they.
I
think they played
what impact does
the Nexus Star well, right?
Spider have on their team?
What impact? I mean, obviously he's just a lot of points, right? And if you go to his base and you try to attack him, he'll just keep you down and then still passively pack point. I think he was responsible for some of their cohesion as well, because I think from talking to him, there were times when the team was not performing, where they just had like no real captain, and then it seems like later on they had some good chats that Spider was involved in, and then they came out more cohesive afterwards. I don't know if he was actually captaining in games for them, but I think a big impact.
It's interesting to look at their base average. It's actually even lower than the Dragons. So they must have been just smashing it on pack points.
They were defensive as hell as well.
Oh, were they?
Yeah.
Someone else want to chime in? Yeah.
From what I could see, they were. Yeah, that's probably where.
Maybe not defensive by choice.
Yeah, they're just defensive because they're getting absolutely destroyed. I think One Up is still one of the craziest teams when it comes to like literally just what you said, Mouldy, like checking up on them. Like you just see them win some games and you're like, oh, they're playing like shit. Like they just lost to this team or like whatever. And then the next game they just win like a bunch in a row and they just look like a completely different team. And it's just like, what One Up are we gonna get today? Let's roll the dice, but it's like for like what level of skill they're gonna go through. And it's just like I don't know what it is, but like sometimes they just look like the One Up who can make the finals in Aubrey, and then the next time they look like the One Up who gets like 11th place and like just doesn't do like. But there's like barely any difference. It's just like small things that just don't work well consistently, and I think maybe that's just how they play. Like if they get all these denied bases 10% more, then they're winning like a couple more games than they should. Like
Yeah, it's hard to figure out their game plan because when we played them, they were like the bad one up, I think, most of the time. Like I'd go to their base and just kind of pin them in and they'd have 4 there and I'd get a couple dings or go even tag ratio on them. And meanwhile, my team is pushing bases from the other side and getting like 40, 50k and they'll like come out 10 to 20k. And it's like, what were you doing all game? You were like literally standing in your base doing nothing. Like, where were you? And then you see them beat all the other top teams. And you're like, what the fuck is going on?
yeah, 100%. I think most of these teams around this area it's like the same story. Like they either felt a little bit comfortable or uncomfortable with certain things, and then other things they just felt like they didn't know what they were doing. And from watching One Up, they had really good. I saw a couple games from reffing near one of the doors of green, like near the green to red X, and their pushes into green were good, but they just never got the base. Like no one could spawn there. They got all the points, but they would just barely ever go into the baseline. And maybe that was their strategy, but like there was just so many times where they had so many free kills and an opportunity to go in, but they just wouldn't even take it. And then by the looks of this, if they were taking it, they were just getting 2-shot denied as well. So it's just like,
Yeah, that's a lot of denies on a gunner in year 1.4, 1.2. That's you lose a lot of games getting denied like that.
Is it because of the nature of the arena? Were you really relying on your kind of pushing defenders to pick the times to run up and support on the doors? So is that something that got exposed for them, perhaps? You know, to cut the denials down, to reduce the amount of denials. You really,
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think often I would see them running with like a 2-man out if they weren't defending with 4, and you can't really leave a 2-man out for too long because a 2-man attack in isolation in this maze and the current meta, the way Australia plays, you just kind of get shat on. And you do that push defender when your base is empty really helps, right? Like especially like red to green. If you have your third player setting up, you can get 2 kind of into the base and 1 still covering that door for you. And if you can't make that work cohesively, it's harder to take bases and easier to get denied. Like I don't know, just I didn't see that many of their attacks because they didn't attack us very much, but I'm wondering if they did the old kind of, I've gotten in the base through 1 door and I'm up, so let's put shots on. But that would just be speculation.
Yeah, it's one of those. Gunner and Yair are such a strong combination that against the right opponents, like when it works, it really works. Like there's no 2 or 3 person defense that doesn't have trouble with Gunner and Yair coming at them. But in a situation where they're playing top level teams and you need the third person to push up, the third or fourth person to push up, sometimes it's not quite as effective and coughs up the denials.
I think that the person was I think it's Gunner and Crouchy a lot of the time.
Gunner and Crouchy, yeah.
So is actually the third one pushing up. It's just not he's just not being as critical, like in getting what was he 1.4 or something? Like
high denies. And I think they were also really susceptible to 1 player running into their base, pulling too many defenders back. I think a lot of teams fell into that trap where if anyone ran in, they would collapse 4. even collapsing 3 is kind of too many. You kind of only want to collapse 2 players on the. If you're pushed out and your base is empty and one random runs in, you can't commit that many players to it because you lose all of your pack points, right?
Yeah.
Did you guys already talk about the other Hobart team?
No, let's hear Runt's opinion on that team, given that he was coaching them the entire comp.
Sorry, Devils. The Devils.
I wish I could have talked to them more. I didn't get much opportunity to talk to them because the game structure is so. But let's see.
Did they exceed your expectations, Runt, or about what you thought?
I told them they'd come 8th, and they came 8th. Where is it? Sorry, I'm gonna try and stream again. Share the video, and hopefully it doesn't crash my PC. It's struggling for whatever reason there. So I think like Sega being injured and having to play that more defensive role definitely hurt the team. It meant that Tiger and Shurikitty were out, and they're 2 players that like when they're on, they're bloody amazing, but when they're off, they're like arguing and it's no good. So yeah, it was like when the games were good, they'd play really well, and when the games were less good, they'd struggle to claw it back, and maybe, and I don't think they were like strong enough on dumping to claw back games as soon as like, or maybe they were dumping too late to claw those games back when it wasn't working for those like pushed out players. I think the defense was really strong from memory, but yeah, it was just like when your points players are getting shut down and nobody's like ticking over anything, what do you do? And I think like they'd shift more offensive and they'd just drop a load of denials and stuff like that. So that was kind of where they capped out a bit. It felt was when the game started poorly, it ended poorly. Also, like Easy Points was actually playing really well in training, and then he exploded his ankle, so that was rough to watch as well. But yeah, I wish I had more time to like watch their games and analyze stuff with them. But yeah, it was too full on.
I think
Can't
from
believe
what
how
I
good their tag ratios are. Their tag ratios are amazing.
Yeah,
I was
yeah,
gonna
and
say
especially, like,
just Shirokitty's tag ratio. That is, it makes me sad from what we saw in Aubrey and stuff, and just how she was performing on like the Prenats 2 team, and the Shirokitty we had then to this. But I'm gonna guess by the sounds of it, was she kind of captaining,
no,
or
no.
what was the
I think she
vibe?
was just like the furthest player, or like she was put
Yeah,
into
okay.
the shits because like Sega was injured. Like if it was Sega wasn't injured, Shurikitty could maybe play like further back, and it would be Tiger and Sega out maybe. And just like as soon as the game started going poorly, like they're throwing their heads at the wall trying to crack bases. I'd say all. I think we really haven't picked up on the trend, but I think all those like really aggressive base like players that are trying to get bases are going to have like absolutely tragic tag ratios because the settings are so oppressive. Yeah, and it's natural to have a TR that low. I'd say Tiger did surprisingly well to keep it positive, but it's brutal out there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
he got
think-
denied
I think-
to shit though, right?
Yeah, I
Tiger?
just noticed that. The rest of them are like,
Yeah.
have been trained by Runt perfectly, and Tiger's like, fuck whatever Runt said, I'm shooting this base.
Yes, he loves bases. So yeah, I think that's what happened. It would start going badly, and then Shurikitty and Tiger would go out, and then Shurikitty would get shot a lot, and then Tiger would shoot bases a lot, and that's not like the best way to claw back a game.
Yeah. I mean, she got almost as many bases as he did, and her average score is almost the same. So it shows you how much those denies are costing him and probably costing the
Yeah.
team, right?
Yeah, for sure. Um,
All right. Have you guys spoken about
Think
Shark Clips yet?
No, we haven't. But just
did
a
you guys
quick
have much to say about Devils, real quick? Yeah.
I think watching like them playing the way they had to because of the things that happened, and like the fact that Sega's ankle went before the comp, and then they get there, and then Easy Points is whatever whatever happened with his leg. It's just like what cursed? Who cursed them? Like why is this happening? Like what did they do to deserve this? It's just so unlucky. But like the way that they recovered, they did better than a lot of people expected. Well, they did better than the entire panel for the prediction stream expected. So like, and they did like they looked competitive when they were when they were versing better teams as well. They didn't like get blown out. They put up a fight, and it was like even though they were on the ground dead already, they still put up a fight and like tried to like do as much as they could. And it was just nice to see that they didn't drop their heads, didn't give up. Sure, there might have been some arguments and stuff, but they at least like got to the end of it all and they didn't kill each other. Considering how bad it could have been if they just let all these things get to them.
Yeah.
How the hell did Sega get 6th in solos with a broken ankle?
He was moving in solos, man. Sega was fucking moving in solos. He got a term for taking me out, running into me. Yeah, it probably cost him a position, but yeah.
Wow.
I don't know. He was keen. He was keen.
It had to put it on ice afterwards, no doubt.
Surely. Yeah. Just before we move on, I just want to say I was very happy that my prediction was so wrong for this team. I had to pick a team to put the Kiwis above, and they seem like an easy target, but they're some of my absolute favorite people and one of my favorite teams. So I think the result, actually, given everything, was really, really good.
Sweet. All right, shall we talk about Shark Lips?
Let's do it. Bootza, would you be able to drive the screen sharing or someone drive the screen sharing? My laptop is not handling it for some reason.
Okay, let me see what I can do here.
Wait, I'll do it because Bootza's shit will just shit the bed again. What
Thank
is it
you.
called
Yeah,
again?
I have moved my laptop now. Is it better?
Is
Laser
it
base.
Laser base.
Laser base.
Is it less crappy now? My
Yeah, you
my
sound
Yeah, that's
internet.
good.
Excellent. Hey, sorry everybody for the crappy computer I was using.
Alright, give me 5 seconds.
Is someone watching chat too? Because I haven't been able to tell when
Yeah.
No,
our voice is dying.
can you guys see this?
Not yet.
No.
Runt, can you try and accept it and move?
Oh, wait. So sorry. Can we not? I think no. It's up. It's up.
Oh, I can't see it.
Okay, the stream can see it, but you guys
Stream-
can't. Okay.
Oh really? Put some Mouldy, maybe pull up the stream.
Oh, I've
So-
already got stream up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's so weird that you guys can't see it. Not sure why that is.
Am I pulling up? Sorry.
Shark
Go to the solo ladder and then sort by teams, and then scroll down to Shark Lips wherever they are. So at the top solo ladder.
Yeah. Cool. Low denies by, except for on Type M with 1.3, but everyone else is under 1. Low base hits, but a good spread between everyone.
Yeah.
Did anyone, from watching them play early, it just looked like they couldn't get anything to work. But later on, they actually looked a little bit better, and they seemed to be getting a flow of the maze more. And I saw like that they finished a lot better than they started. But the start just, I don't know why the start was so bad. It seemed like one thing I do know that they did a lot at Prenats 1 at Sunny Coast was they had like a really strong 2-man attack with Taipan and Method, and it was working very well. And by the looks of it, like Method only has 0.8 base takes, and Taipan has 1.3. Like 1.3 is okay with the way that Maze was playing. 0.8 seems very low, so they must have been playing.
But almost the same figures.
Oh shit!
It's practically the same figures.
I always do this. How many times have I done this? But yeah, they're practically the same. Like it's just slightly lower. Oh wait, no. I got there in the
Luckily,
end.
all the sets are practically the same.
Yeah, they're literally all the same. But like this just seems low. So maybe they were playing like a slower defense into like quick hits and stuff. And that would make sense because the spread here is really good. So they're just kind of getting whoever's closest to jump in and take the shots.
From the looks, they were playing a pretty like sort of push and pull structure by the end of the comp because nobody's got like a really low tag ratio. Nobody's got like a really high one. It's like everyone's pretty together and they're probably all moving quite well as a unit.
Yeah. I think, like, considering where Noodle was at Pre-Nut 3, he was really strong under the base and outside on lockout. I didn't think he looked too good at home when he wasn't under. And seeing his stats be where they are here is actually pretty solid, like, all things considered. And I think Orcry struggled a little bit because the Maze didn't have any of those really nice door defender spots where they can just kind of exist and absolutely dominate people as much.
Oh,
It's so hard to tell.
someone
Does
pointed out Mushu. He was getting a bit carved up, hey?
where am I? Here. Oh my gosh, yes, actually.
78 is rough.
Do we know what role Mushu was playing?
Honestly, I barely remember my games with Shark Clips. I remember playing like the first game of the comp against them, but like you can't read anything into that. Yeah.
But so did you notice much watching the stream? Because you probably saw them more than we did.
I was always split attention because I was working all week, so I kind of had it running, but I wasn't really taking close notice. So yeah, it would have been nice to have a bit more input here, but sadly, no.
Okay.
Yeah,
From what I will just say this, from what I saw at Pre-Nats 1 to this performance, this is kind of sad to see because like it looked like a cohesive unit where everyone felt comfortable where with how badly they ended up performing compared to where I don't remember where everyone else put them, but I remember where I put them, and I think I put them around 6 or something. And it just felt like they just didn't hit that mark at all. Like it just did not look like the same team that was at Pre-Nats 1. They looked so uncomfortable whenever I saw them playing, and maybe the Maze, but
What was the vibes?
I saw no yelling, at least. There was no like arguments or anything. So good vibes, maybe.
Yeah, it seemed pretty chill.
Yeah, I think I might have heard
super busy?
Taipan once or twice in the maze, but not that often.
Yeah, was Mopar super busy doing tech work?
Yeah.
Pretty busy.
Yeah. How good was Noodle getting into doubles finals?
Noodle and Pug like played really well, and their like headspace about it was pretty good. Like they literally were like, "We're making finals. It's happening. We're not getting last place. It's happening." Like it was the way they were thinking, and I think they did really well in Wingman. Maybe I'm misremembering. Is there a way for me to look at that? Can I do that on here?
Not quickly, but I'll tell you what it is.
They got 15.
Oh, okay. Not as high as I remember.
At one stage in the doubles finals, they were positioned quite well. I think it was like game 2 or something. They were like leading at one point. I was like, oh my god, they were actually in contention for a top 3 spot at like the midway point of the doubles. I think it kind of fell away at the end, but still 6th is very respectable.
Very solid.
Do you think Pug? I'm kind of deviating to Pug here now. Do you think Pug like established himself this comp as one of the elite players?
I would think so. Like he did, he was really solid, like at all points, and I think I'm glad everyone kind of knew about him and stuff. But I hope that everyone actually like understands just how good he is now.
I was really impressed by Pug on your team. I think there was just one moment where his inexperience showed a little bit, where Cobras were defending out a dumped base and you'd sent him to go fetch it and he just kept running over, getting shot, and then running back being like, wax, wax, what am I doing? But like
Yeah.
one incident aside, but that's really an experience thing as well, because that's a tough situation. I thought he was really, really good.
There was we probably shouldn't deviate too much, but there was like a lot where he didn't really know what I wanted him to do, and it was kind of hard for me to explain. Just like, I need you to be here and just play lace tag, like just shoot the people, look for the opportunities, and find the gaps, and that's all you need to do. And I think he was a little bit lost at times onto exactly what he was doing. But I think by the end of it, he found like a really good rhythm in the middle of the maze and how he wanted to play it. So, but we can talk more about Poke later when we get there.
Yeah. We got one more set of teams. So is anything we want to finish off with Shark Clips before we move on to the next bracket?
I don't think any of us has eyes when they were playing, so I don't think we're...
Unfortunately, they started pretty low on the Cascades, so by the time they were climbing, it was the time we didn't really
get to see them as much. Sorry, Shark Clips.
All right, that's what you get, Shark Clips, for finishing bad round robin. All right, let's move on to the next one, which was like blew my mind when I saw the Golden Series results from this one. But there was like 20 points separating them between 4th and 5th. I think Aftershock and Storm kind of occupied the next sort of category in the ladder. Let's talk about them next. How do you think both of those teams went? But two teams who are notoriously good thinking teams, which is interesting. They kind of, maybe that was the edge between them and the teams just below them. How did you guys see it?
I thought at first Aftershock was playing really well, and like their structure was good, and they looked really well drilled. They had ideas of what they wanted to do. In training, they literally looked dead though. So it looked like they had cooked, but they were just so exhausted from doing 20 hours worth of training that they just had nothing left in the tank. And maybe that like fucked them at the end, but they definitely had good ideas of what they wanted to do. It was just executing the ideas and actually winning those duels and doing the right things to be able to get into the perfect spots that they had obviously planned hard about. Like they are, I would argue, maybe watching Aftershock have team chats and stuff, they have very in detail team chats. I'm just watching them from a distance, so I don't actually know what's being said, but it looks like they are having like hard conversations about lace tag, what exactly happened, what went wrong, why did this happen, blah blah blah. And Beefy is good at that, and Beefy will do that. And I think it worked really well with how the maze worked and with lockout for Aftershock to do well. Before the last day, there was no world in my mind where Aftershock wasn't in finals with how they were playing, for me at least.
Yeah, I think the structure of like the collapsing home and the very onto it defense, like they were very, they'd all crunch, they'd all know where you are, their comms were really good, you weren't sneaking past anybody, the defenders would chase you. It was like a really good defensive structure, so I was very surprised to see them down this low.
I mean, look, the difference between like 5th and being in the final series is not really low to me. Like if you come 4th or 5th, you're very close to being in the top. Like I know Vantage won that last series fairly convincingly, but it wasn't like a massive blowout, right? It was still quite close. If they played that series again, they might have made it into finals rather than coming 5th.
Yeah, I guess you're talking about like versing Vantage to get to finals.
Yeah,
2K is like nothing.
Yeah, was it only 2K advantage?
It's
2K average, so two bases overall.
It's not much. That's 2 bases over 3 games, right? It's not very much. So I think we can put, because they didn't make finals, them in this tier below the top 3, but they were very close. Like I think we definitely dropped games to Aftershock. All of it, like I think some of the hardest games I played this comp, apart from the finals ones, were like Vikings Aftershock, where it was low base, and the one we replayed, right? Both of those games were very intense.
Those were crazy. Yeah.
And like their red mostly was really, really good. I think maybe at the end you could slip by them a little bit more than at the start. But overall, they really hard tactical thinking team. I think more so than Storm. I think Storm relied a little bit more on firepower, for me, and like the big quick hits that kind of region is really used to doing. Whereas I feel like Aftershock were playing more of the typical homes out, and then like really strong push from like Fuggan and Church, like getting things all game, and then relying on having enough bases that your pack points win the game. Almost like a Viking strategy. Yeah.
So something that stood out to me was the lack of denials that they got against them. So you got Holmes on 0.9, but outside of that, and he's got you got one player on your team that's got a bit of a license to cowboy, right? Like sometimes you need to there needs to be a game breaker on the team, and they tend to take a little bit more risk with getting bases. But still 0.9 isn't terrible. But the rest of their players are like 0.4, 0.4, 0.1, 0.1, 0.1 denials per game, which is what that tells me is that their structure is like very good, and they're reading each other. So when they're pushing onto base, they've got the right amount of support sitting behind the people that are internally in the base to cover the doors and stuff like that. So yeah, it looks like their stats sheet looks awesome. Like their tag ratios are all pretty good.
Yeah, it's again an example of like these settings are brutal to even players like Fuggan, as good as he is. It's like it can take you down to like a 90 TR or something, because you're just coming up against players that are alive, and it's brutal. But no, like someone like Holmes did really, really well to keep his TR so positive and keep so many tags ticking over.
He was in the thick of it so much. He was just
Mm.
like in the bases, doing
He
loops,
was everywhere.
distracting everyone.
He
There was
averaged
times-
59 tags. My God.
Yeah, there was times where I disagreed with what he was doing, and I think it was slightly too much. But there was times where it would work perfectly. He would sneak a base. He'd go 70 and 50, like. But I just think it was too inconsistent and too far between for him to be doing it as much as he was. I would have liked to see some more aggressive, maybe like 3-man pushes into green and stuff from especially red.
Yeah, I felt like when they were pushing from red, you'd have Chutch and Fuggan, and they were trying to keep you down, and that was a hard fight, like 1v2, but they weren't really making serious runs on the door because they didn't have homes there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think if they did that more, they would have actually been like 10%, 15% better. Like it would have looked a lot nicer if they linked up more. They linked up a lot for their like across to blue and to red. Their like backdoor entry sneaky stuff was really well planned, and like their timings on that was maybe one of the best, except for maybe Cobra's was really good as well.
Storm did
But-
it really bloody well as well. Yeah.
Oh yeah, Storm as well. And like that was like the timings of when every player would come was like perfect, and they would literally catch so many people off guard. They just looked like an oiled machine. And then I think at times when something else would happen, they would be involved in the movement of the game, but they wouldn't be always on top of what exactly to do. Like it looked like they would just try and play there was no reset when it started for them. It just would go and go and go, and they just would hope that they were winning, but they would never like go back home and like hold out the attack and then go again or whatever. They never looked like they were in a winning position. They looked like they were trying to play catch up at all points, I guess, is kind of what I'm saying. Which maybe they were, but there definitely was times where they were in a winning position, and they should have just kept playing the winning game instead of like trying to push the gas forward.
Are you still talking about Aftershock?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's such an art form, I reckon. This is for me as somebody who played a lot of games. I think the art form of knowing when doing too much, like how much are you doing in there as like the primary attacker, like what you were saying about Holmes doing too much, and sometimes you've got to take more risk and do more things based upon the game position, and knowing when it's time to actually just slow the speed down and actually play a steadier game because of the game position. I think that's such an art form. I think, and yeah, a bit of a pat on the back to you, Run. I think out of everyone I've seen play at the moment, I think you're like the pinnacle of that. You do that really, really well. It's almost like you, I don't know, yeah, you tapped into something else out there sometimes with knowing when exactly to do that. But
It's the lights.
yeah, as a it's the lights.
It's crazy. You told me you didn't know, Runt. You liar.
Oh man. Fuck. No, I hate the lights
so
with
fun.
such passion because yeah, that's like the most fun part of the game is trying to figure out when to gas on and gas off.
Yeah, yeah. Let's talk about Storm a little bit. How did they play it?
Oh well,
Well.
they railed us multiple times through the entranceway, and they had like the most regimented like we're gonna plan this out with a pen and paper kind of attack ever. It was like, oh, Cairns is gonna run behind here. It's gonna draw the 2 defenders to look at them, and then you're gonna run 2 more attackers through, and they're gonna shoot the defenders as they turn, and then they're gonna take your base. And it's just like that perfect textbook of like yeah when it works and when it goes to plan and when you can plan it out it's very oppressive in the more general games or when those sort of like structured attacks are being shut down by people realizing what they're doing and accounting for it, then they struggled a bit more. But yeah, those regimented attacks were very scary and they took 2 games off us literally just by doing those to us. Like Storm beat us more than the top
They
teams
beat
would
you at
beat us.
least twice, right?
Yeah, they beat us
Yeah.
twice when like barely anyone else had beat us. So yeah,
Yeah.
very effective.
I do think that was like the one real weakness of your team, and it coincided with their real strength. Like your bases were susceptible to that run, that 3-man push through that door, and they were the only team apart from Cobras, I think, who had a really good coordinated 3-man run through those doors. So it's not surprising that they beat you doing that. Yeah, I feel like any team Kansas is involved with has that kind of attack going, that like very sudden, very quick, very effective run in with 3+ people. I remember in Hobart they would send like 4 or 5 and just like smash onto your base, get it, and go home, and often not lose one in retaliation.
Yeah.
Yeah. But even if you lose it, it depends who you lose it to. Right? Like I think they were always really tactically very good at picking which base to go to and who to drop to. I did ref a couple of their games in green base, and I actually think they had a really put together defense in green as well. For the times that I watched them,
That seems crazy because from what I know from them, they fucking hated green. They
maybe
seem like they couldn't work it out.
maybe I watched one good game. I don't know. Like
Yeah.
maybe. Yeah.
I think this new style, like not new style, the style that you're saying is Kansas style, is literally just how all of Sunny Coast plays now. It's like the Sunny Coast style of like these fast 3-mans all the time, like constantly keeping the gas up, go, go, go. Defense doesn't matter as much because we're gonna get 2 when they get 1. Like fuck it, we'll just keep it rolling.
Yeah, you look at the tag ratios on this team and they're on average very low in comparison. Or not very low, but like all kind
Yeah.
of around 100 or below 100. Which indicates a more aggressive team.
Yeah.
How interesting are their stats compared to Aftershock? Like when you compare them, like so you go down the line and their base average is 1.2, 1.3, 1.1, 0.9, 1. Like so their base average is super high. Their tag ratios are slightly lower, but also their tags. So they've got nobody over 50 tags average, but they've got 4 players sitting between 45 and 50. So they've got a 46, a 45, a 49, a 47. I don't think any other teams have got that. So they've got like more of their players in the action more often or something. So is this a reflection of the constantly attacking, like regular attacks that they were doing?
That'd make sense.
Yeah, I think that's spot on. Shock captain this team, right?
I'm like 90% sure he captain.
Yeah. I
He
think
was
from watching it, it
captaining
seemed like he
before.
was. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think if he was captaining, he did a really good job. Like, I think, coming fourth is always disappointing, but to do that as like a fresh captain is pretty insane.
Yeah, I think he has a really good like subconscious feel for the game and stuff. Like he understands all the minute things that like maybe people don't always see. Like he's finds those gaps and like finds the timing, and it's just I think in a like give him some more time, and these 3-man hits will be like this scare, like undefendable. Like they will just be like so strong and like fast, unless you like defend it with 4 or 5. Like you need to like actually respect it so much.
I think that's especially true when you don't have lockout. I think a good cohesive defense on lockout just shuts that the fuck down, and you kind of see that with their tag ratios here. But I think in
That's
Ziltak,
true.
it's way scarier.
Yeah,
Way
100%. And that's exactly what they're going to do at Ziltak, and that's exactly what Spartans are going to do at Ziltak. And it's just going to be like these fast 3-man hits, coordinated, planned, and it's just they're going to hit the gas. The gas is going to be fully down at all points.
Don't fall behind.
True.
Yeah, and so final question from me for these guys. So they made it pretty public that they weren't that keen to go to Worlds before Worlds because of the format. They weren't overly keen on the format. How do you? They might be able to tell us in the chat actually, like how did they seem during and after the competition? Had it grown on them at all?
From what I gathered, like not in a way where they would just say in a vote for world settings, but they had like they didn't hate it. Like it was fine. Like
I mean, they were there for the whole presentation. Like, so I think they had a good time.
that's crazy.
Boom.
So fair though. So fair.
Yeah. Somebody say something.
I can't. It's too good. We're gonna let it simmer.
Oh, I hope it grew on them because it was making me sad that they didn't like world settings because I love them so much. Other people like them a lot. They really didn't like it, and I was like, oh, I really like you guys liking the same stuff as us. That's that means we can all play together. So, yes, Firebird liked it a lot more than he thought he would.
That's
good.
good to hear because I feel like they were kind of negative. Yeah, it felt early on like they maybe weren't loving it, and then Wingman happened, and I felt like they really weren't loving the setting. So it's good. I really enjoyed all of my games against Storm. I felt they brought like real intensity to the games. Like they were always such a struggle to put down.
I'm so glad that they played with that intensity despite it not being their their primary comp that they were really out to win, but they still gave it everything.
I would like to, while Cyrus is in chat, did you actually use the tracking much to make decisions and like what you like plans and stuff? Guess we can start talking about something else while she responds.
Yes, Cyrus is going to go again too. Excellent. So, what was your question, Wax?
Just if she used the tracking and stuff to make plans and decisions and stuff. I actually didn't even think to ask her about that.
Just while she's responding to that, I just want to say we were talking about Shock as captain before, and I actually got the privilege of being captained by Shock in training recently. And I learned there that he's got it. He's got what it takes to be a really good captain. He's got the instinctive characteristic that's needed in order to do it really well. So yeah, he's already there actually, in my opinion. Like he's already where he needs to be. He'll just keep adding 1% each time he does big comps now, and he'll just get just refine his craft. But he's already at the top level where he needs to be. There we go. Yeah, more to know the opponents. That's interesting. Yeah, it's a good way to use it, I think.
Yeah, just know the tendencies and stuff, and where people are going to be positioned in parts of the games and stuff.
All right, shall we move on to the grand final, lads?
Let's do it.
All right.
Can I will just say with Storm and Aftershock in the Golden Game, like the first Golden Game with Cobras and stuff, these games were literally perfect training for what we got in finals. Like if we didn't play the 6 games against the first Golden Games where there was like so much dumping and so much all this chaos, and then the second one where it was even worse because Storm was in there, like we literally got 5 games of perfect practice for how the finals went, and it was amazing because like we could refine everything in those games, and then before we got into the finals. Sorry, I just wanted to quickly jump in and say that.
And you were saying it was also some of the most fun laser tag. Just to bring up another point of the 3-game series for finals is awesome, right?
My body wanted to die. I literally physically
Mm.
got ill as soon as we got home because I was so run. I've never been so sore and injured and run down from a laser tag comp before. And I don't know if it was because of the 3-game series, but those motherfuckers were intense as shit. And they were literally just their own finals games. And it was fun as hell. But in my mind, there's no world where we should have been able to win. Like, and I think that would have been true if the games played any other way than what they did. And if we had to play slower, it would have been fucked. Like the fact that the games picked up was good because we were dead. So like the intensity of the finals made it so that we could keep carrying this like last little bit of energy that we had to get to the end.
Yeah. Can
But
I just
if we didn't win, I feel like people would be like, "This is fucked. No one can beat the first place team." And it's like, it could have been like a whole different story if it was like, you guys just smashed everyone, 30K, like easy win, like.
I don't think that was ever on the cards. To be fair,
But I'm just saying, just if it did happen.
Yeah, I agree. Would you guys both agree that we could have played that series 3 times and produced 3 different winners? Because that's how I feel about it, for sure. I feel like all 3 teams could have won that series.
Yeah, it was wild. Should we get into what happened?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, from my perspective, it's fucking wild because it just played out so differently to everything. We knew what Cobras were going to do at green. We knew they're going to 5-man defend, and then it was going to be a nice slow game. And then Cobras immediately dropped 3 bases to Vantage, and then dump on us. And it's like
Vantage were red, right? Yeah.
yeah.
I can tell you why that happened.
Yeah, go on.
It was
Yeah. For some reason, I played all comp out of green at the red side, kind of half defending that door, and then trying to push back into red and draw red away and keep the pressure off, like Wax was talking about early. Then for some fucking reason, Hatman says to me, "No, you're playing blue side now." And but don't worry, you're not just going to get fucked on points. We're going to try and attack blue. We're going to do some early hits on blue because Ace can watch red. It's fine. We won't lose the base. So I go to blue, and I just start getting absolutely fucking taken apart by CV, Twinkles, and Leper, 1v3. And Hatman is somewhere else. I don't know where he is, but my tag ratio is down to like 50%. I've gotten absolutely fucking destroyed. We have no bases, and our base has gone down 3 times. So the plan was not to dump, at least as soon as we did. And I'm not blaming Sean for wanting to try something new. Like the finals.
Don't try it in your finals, you fucks, because it screwed us. So
I don't care about my personal tag rate. If we win a game, I'll happily get 0 points or negative points to win a game. Like that doesn't bother me. I think we put ourselves on the back foot straight away by changing how we were playing green. And that's unfortunate. And it caused the dump, which then kind of fucked the whole game up and gave Vantage a good in.
Yeah, because it was interesting. You guys dump onto us. You guys get control, so it's like, okay, we either base swap and try and hold Catalyst out of the last 2 bases and try and stop them from absolutely stomping us, or we go into Catalyst and then we get absolutely stomped and feed them the finals in game 1. So we had to do damage mitigation and fucking base swap with you guys. Puts Catalyst just so far into the lead off the rip. It was crazy.
It was unfortunate.
I will say that, like, even the game that we played against you guys in the Golden game, right, where you felt like it was really good when you sat on us. I figured something out in that game that I couldn't explain to Cody in game, because every time I went to talk to him about it, you would come near us, and I knew that no matter what happened, Husky wouldn't understand exactly what I was saying. So it was like, it was hard for me to explain in the moment. But as soon as we finished that game before the finals, I explained exactly what we had to do, and we literally just walked into your base. Like I played like shit in that first game. I literally had 2 bases in a couple minutes, 5 and 20 deaths, and I just had 2 bases. It was probably not worth it, but like we got into green so many times just because there was a gap in your defense that was so exploitable through the door closest, like I don't know what doors are called, what you guys call them, but the one that's furthest away from the entry, but not the one that's by itself. Like
Yeah, I know what you're saying. Yeah.
So
100%.
Husky would distract, I would run, kill Ace, and then we could get in really easily. And it was
Yeah,
like,
yeah. So I should have been at the other side, ready to back up and shoot through the base, but I wasn't there. Right? There was no
true,
backup for
but
that.
if we just killed you in the moment, I think we can still do it. It's just we couldn't do it before because I didn't realize how open the gap was in the moment.
Well, lots of teams did try that in other games, and usually, even if Ace went down, either the one that we call front, which is the one closest to the maze entrance, or me at what we call backdoor on the red side, would survive and get the shot. Like our green defense before I was moved from that position was very, very tight. We very rarely dropped that base.
Maybe, but
And anyway, then
But-
they go to blue base, and we're expecting them to hold Vantage out, and then they just leave, giving Catalyst and free bases, all from the bloody Cobra's defense.
let's
Sorry.
go. Oh,
Anyway, the final results of game one ended up being not that split, so we can't even blame it all on that. But yeah, that was just the wildest thing of like, okay, we're base swapping, I guess, to mitigate the Vantage dicketing, and then they just left again and gave him 5 free more ones.
we didn't
my
get
fault.
them. We didn't get them.
You didn't get them? You
Yeah,
guys got
yeah,
10 in the
No,
first, didn't you?
no. In the
You got 10
second
in the
game, first game we
first
did,
game
but
we
the
Oh
second
no,
game.
we haven't started talking
No.
about the second game
Oh,
yet.
okay. I
I'll
thought-
do it.
Let's talk about
Let's-
the second game. I like that game.
That's crazy.
So let's talk.
I feel like
what
just
color for
quickly
that?
in the
Yeah.
first game, it was pretty like we were exhausted as fuck. And when we got to like the chat after the first game, everyone felt really good, and we're like, we finished. We know we have more bases than everyone, but instantly I was like, I played like shit. Like I know I played like shit. And Pug looked at me and was like, I had one of the worst games of my life. That was horrendous. And like I was like, whatever that score is, however good we feel, just take that emotion. I don't care about the scores right now because there's a chance that it's like way closer on pack than we think it is. When we should have had a way bigger gap because we had 10 and you guys had 7 and 6 or whatever. But because our pack was so bad, we made the right decision to not like keep going with that. Because if we did, we could have thought we were like way more ahead than we were when we were like only like 3K ahead or something, and it should have been like a 10K gap. So I'm glad we did that because it could have like put us in a really shit position moving forward if we decided to like really read into what was happening in the game. All right, second game. Cobras absolutely destroys Vikings
Yeah,
defense and
yeah,
gets the
we-
two
we were-
free
Oh,
we were-
bases ever.
We got three bases on their defense. I thought.
All I'm saying is my defense is goated. You guys, your defenses suck.
Yeah.
Like,
So the Vikings' red defense had a massive hole in it. It was their worst color for defense, I think, and it was pretty easy just to run through that door, send one across, distract someone, shoot one of the defenders in the back, and just take the base. It was
you know
It
what
was not
sucks
good.
so much about your first take, Mouldy, on Vikings is I was in a gap as well. You guys run in as I'm about to come in as well, and you steal my gap, and then instead of leaving me alive to help shoot me, he's like, fuck you, Axe, and then like fails the 2-shot to die.
Did
And
I
I was
shoot
like,
you?
yeah, you do. You shoot
Oh.
me when I go through
Oh,
the
my
other door.
I mean that take for me, right? The kind of the long shot, high left hand at red base. I've been doing that to all teams, all comp, and I almost never got. I didn't think I got denied on it once, right? Like I did it to you guys as well in the series. It's basically free for me. The problem was letting our other two right-handers come in and also take the base basically for free because they have to get all the way in to do that. So I'm like, where was your defense?
I think we were probably playing a bit aggressive because we felt so bad about the first, which we knew we were only down max 6K. We knew that, but emotionally it did not feel good. I would say.
Yeah.
And
Because you dumped pretty early, right?
well, we knew we had to do that. If we held any longer, we were giving the win to you guys by far. Like if you're down 3 bases to Cobras, why are you still defending? Like it's not a maze where you can just like start be like, oh, we'll
No.
attack and get some bases.
You can't get it back. You can't get it back. No.
So we had to dump. And
That's fair.
again, I stand by a lot of the decisions we made in finals. But the being too aggressive and leaving those holes at the start was obviously a very severe misplay by us because all of us were trying to make something happen when we just weren't that far out of it and we needed to defend more.
You dumped to green, right?
Maybe.
To the vantage green, and then we managed to get several of those in the middle of the dump.
Did you?
We took over your base. We made it our own base. Then we pushed on the green back door and got a bunch of them. I think we finished the game with like 9 bases or something.
I thought we dumped on
Um,
blue. I'm pretty sure
No,
we dumped.
you did dump onto blue first.
And then
Because
we left.
couldn't do anything
yeah.
because we were just sitting there, and I was like, "There's not enough time for us to even finish. Like, we need to go." But I was like, "If I go, we could just lose or give it to someone else." So I was like, in that moment, it was impossible for me to. It felt impossible for me to make a decision because it was like, I let them cycle, and maybe we get 3 on each, and we can get like a little bit of bases, but we got to defend well. But it just felt like there was no option. Like I either dump and fight Vikings, then Cobras get a free 10 bases, or I dump and we fight like Cobras and then Vikings win. And it's just like realistically, if I knew who was further behind, I probably could have made a better decision in the moment and like given the game to whoever needed to it have been given to. But like it was just in that moment when you both did that, it was like, bro, what do I even do now? Like this is fucked.
Yeah, I don't remember how many bases Vikings took of ours before we counter dumped, but I feel like Vantage did not get the reds they needed while we were still defending our base. Like Wex, what was going on? Because like we were basically 10 people at blue. You were not cycling red quick enough, right?
From memory, you guys stole the first dumped base from us, and then so you guys got your 3, so you already had your 3. We slowly got ours while getting pack on the back of blue, but we didn't get to finish because then you guys dumped to red, held red with your 5. Vikings were at blue with 5, so we just sat in the middle, like hoping that you guys did it as fast as possible, and then we could like take the scraps from there. And it just felt like, and the timing of it, I remember looking at my gun and being like, the time left in this game is so small right now that like I don't know what to do. And I remember being in that moment being like like we just have to stand here and shoot people and then hopefully can get our bases at the end. And the coordination at the end of the game for us was terrible, like fucking horrendous. Like so we
That's
just
when
didn't
Pug
get the
was
base.
losing it. Yeah.
Yeah.
We were like Vantage gets none of these reds. We were deliberately like, we know they're up. We've got the space, it's ours, they can't have any. And we just held you out. And then we're like, also, we're going to take your green base a few times as well, because that red on green is something we've drilled the fuck out of. And I think that's where our home advantage came in, was taking bases like that.
Does anyone remember what happened in the final game?
Well, so it was Cobras red, Vantage blue, right? And Vikings green. Vikings green. And we didn't realize we had won the second game by so much. We didn't realize we were actually up going into game 3. I think we could have played a more defensive and a slower game, and if we just held out, we would have ultimately won. Our push was still aggressive, and we dropped early bases, and then that triggered a pretty early dump from Hatman, right? We dumped that one too.
Yeah.
Like we didn't defend for long.
At the start of the third game, all I said to like the boys was like, this is going to divulge into something because someone thinks they're behind or something's going to happen. All we need to do this game is make sure we have the juiciest base where everyone needs our base, and if we do this, we can like have the freest takes. And it did not work that way, and we were the juiciest, but like we just did not do well at getting into green when we did end up going there. Like, and then right at the end, it really improved, and we did start to get in.
Over 15 people. There were
No,
15 people at green.
So many people have said this. But have you actually rewatched it? There weren't. You guys
Hatman was still at blue. Half the Cobras were blue because Sean was screaming to defend blue
from you guys. So we got a free base because everyone was at blue.
I was at green, and I thought that our team needed a green to win. But I had no chance to get into green. I had no backup. It was crazy. But the thing is, had we gone to green, I think Vikings, if we didn't get it, if we went to green and didn't get it, then Vikings win and we still come third or second. Like, it's
Yeah,
hard to know how to play to the win at that point because it was so fucking close, right?
because
It was a K.
Twinkles and I took a base off the Cobra's defense at blue. Then we came back, so there were 5 Vikings back at green, and then there's like 20 seconds left, and then Wham Fox is shooting, and then there's all the Cobras around there because they gave up on defending because there's 20 seconds left. So there was like genuinely 15 people in the last 20 seconds of the game, and they got a base, and it won it for them, and it was crazy.
Thing is, if we stop Wham, then you guys swap positions and we still come
Oh, yeah.
third. So
Yeah.
the thing is, we were like, we need points. I'm gonna shoot, and for me, I was like, I'm shooting every pack I can see. I fully accept that if we look back, maybe I helped Wham get that base, and I'm not even fucking sorry.
no.
Like,
No, it's
like,
cool.
I'm like,
Yeah, I'm just saying
you-
it's so much to Vantage's credit on. I think a big reason they did so well is they're the dump goats. They would dump onto a base and they would just get control so bloody well, and they'd get 3 people in there so quickly, and you just could not stomp them out. And when you dump on them, same thing. Like they just get 3 people in the base so well, and it's where their like pack skill is put the most to use. It was during the dumps. It was actually crazy. And I think Vantage have always hampered themselves by being anti-dumping when it's a great game for them, and they were crushing that game. Like whenever you guys just stuffed a lot of people in the base, you guys are the best at stuffing people in the base because you have so many people that are like capable of like being super good attackers, crackers, and defenders. That it was tough to verse you guys in that game. And Wax is saying this like I've insulted his mother.
Well,
I think they were good at green in general as well. Like I ripped so many games watching just their defense at green. They're so fluid, like the play between Zam and Wham on kind of that blue side of green. It was so natural, so quick, so responsive. It was really good to watch. Yeah, I just think they were good there.
it's still the weirdest thing that Max was in the base. Like out of like we had Little Bo and Husky who are literally last lines, and then we tried it a couple times with the left-handers in there, and they didn't love it. And then I saw Jelly doing so well, so I was like, "Fuck it, Max, you're just going to be in the base. Like you're going to sit here on the line, and you're going to be like somewhat ish last line, and we'll see how it goes." And he was having fun. He was loving it. Like it was working well. Like it allowed Husky to be on that red X and fight left-handed really well against the red players, and it was fucking amazing. Like having Husky outside was so good.
For anyone curious, these are actually the finals, the stats from the finals, if that wasn't clear. And it was a really crazy final series. Like the fact that you can, like, it was so high base and everyone had such different strategies, and it was so fun. And it's like a testament to how well they played it because like Wax has like an 80 TR and they won the series. And it's like, just get bases. It's actually simple strategy. Just get bases. It's wild. So that was really cool to see.
Looking at this makes me depressed.
On top of it, though, holy shit, was
look
Husky
at my tag ratio. God
Husky
damn,
was crazy. I think we need to stress how much we saw Prime Husky this comp, and I think I said it while commentating, but for everyone to hear, he is fully unleashed when he was outside the base, and he was actually able to prove just how much he can do because he was tracking people, he was chasing them down, he was making calls to the team, and he was just absolutely dominating areas, and he was just untouched in his areas. He was so bloody good, and we saw the potential of that man this comp, and I think it's the most unleashed we've ever seen him, and he absolutely stomped.
Yeah, just an interesting thing from looking at this table is that how the Cobras are kind of bunched into the middle of it. And this is what I've long thought is a problem with the Cobras and a strength of both of your two teams is that you guys are kind of top heavy in that you have like Twinkles and Runt and Wax and Husky and all of your other all of your other players are really, really good, right? But your top 2 on each team are like exceptional, best in the world good. And the Cobras, we don't have that at all, and we never have. We've always been a team of 5 very close in skill players. And I'm wondering if you think having like X Factor players, even if your lower players are maybe weaker than the average Cobra, I'm not saying they are, but let's say in this comp that they're weaker than the average Cobra, but your top players are that much stronger that it makes that much of a difference.
I think in this maze on these settings, a well-rounded team was like the best thing ever. Like in the finals, I was making all these crazy plays. I felt like I was soloing bases and getting a shitload of tags. but it didn't matter because our team play wasn't as good as your guys, and you guys were all working a lot better as a team than we were, and that it pulled
And
through.
yet,
Like,
our pack points though were always lower because we don't have those players. Like I make the team pretty round, but we don't get the pack points.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was interesting. It was like such a clash of those different styles of play. It was so cool. But
It
yeah,
was. I haven't had more fun in a triple game series than that one, except for like the one before it was close. I think having the golden game series was also sick. Yeah.
I'd like to specify for everyone, and I think it's a very important point, is I think a lot of people are like Cobras and Vikings, we would have been doing it so much. Everyone, it's so easy to do, is to go, oh, if we just had this shot reg, if Wax just got that red after game term, like, oh, what if? And it's like, we can't say we deserved the win. Like, if we're saying, oh, we only lost because of 1 2-shot denial, it's like, no, we didn't deserve to win. We were just praying to get lucky.
I got 2.3. Fuck your denies.
What?
Whatever I got 2.3 denied. I'm the GOAT.
Holy shit.
Yeah. So like,
Yeah.
and it's that victim mindset of going, oh, well, what if this just converted? And it's like, every other team's having the same issues. Every other team is team denying each other like Wax and Husky did. Like,
What if Wax just didn't suck?
Yeah.
That's the real question. Like,
Yeah,
we just win by 30k.
Run is so right that the team that wins, they deserve to win because they won. And like a series doesn't come down to any one moment. It's a collection of things. So the series, even though I think if we played the series 3 times, you might have 3 different outcomes, they won the one that fucking mattered. It didn't matter that we beat them in the Golden Game series because they still won the actual one in spite of getting termed twice in finals.
Yeah.
And they still won.
Yeah. So like, I don't know. I just hear so many teams going, oh, but this one thing went wrong. And it's like, if you're relying on one thing to go perfectly to win, then you didn't really deserve to win. So yeah, just I really hope that that's a message that teams can take, is don't think about this one thing that if it went right you would have won. It's like, no, you need to completely restructure to win. Like, we know that we lost that on a structural issue. We didn't lose it because of one deny. We lost it because we structurally played it wrong. So yeah.
That's a great point, Run.
All right, just to wrap it up. Firstly, thank you all you guys for putting on such a grudge show. Like, looking remotely, I was in a park watching the grand final and was hooting and screaming, and people are looking at me, and it was just so exciting to watch. And with 2 minutes to go, I thought we had no chance. And I think in game 1 and 3, the Vantage boys showed me that they've evolved their game, and they played their late game better than I've ever seen it before. And I guess the thing I've said frequently about these guys is that their biggest strength was their biggest weakness, which is they're so talented that they could make strategical errors and still get away with it and get wins easily. And what they needed to do this time, they're now no longer the untouchable on the packs anymore. They're at the same level or on an equal playing field with many, many other players and teams, and they really had to take their strategy to another level. And what I saw is just the maturation of their overall game to embrace all that is everything. Like, if you want to be a really top team, you need to embrace all the things you love about the game and all the things you don't like about the game, including the dumps and all the things that are needed to sometimes get victories. And yeah, it was just great to witness it and see it. And big congratulations to the Vantage guys. And essentially, I look at this and I say it's basically a draw. All 3 teams, if a base goes one way or the other, all 3 teams could have won it. I don't see that there's any indistinguishable difference between the 3 teams in the grand final. But in a game where you tend to get scores of around 40,000 points, you're going to get somebody ranked as a victor, because unlike soccer, it's not 2-1 or 1-0. We're talking about 40,000 versus 39,900. So somebody's usually comes out on top, even if the teams are basically equal. So that's what happened. And on this occasion, Vantage boys closed it out, and they were in front at the right time when the timer finished, essentially. So it's just great to see. I think it's great for the sport that we saw such a close final, especially after the last couple of grand finals that we've seen at Zeltak. This is the final we all wanted and needed. So thank you to everybody who put it on.
I would rather play this 1,000,000 times over than play the Albury finals. Like, it's so much more fun.
Absolutely. All right, guys, we've probably got to wrap it up there. Is there any final words that you'd like to say before we finish?
I think we're good.
I think we're good.
I just want to get this on my screen. Honestly, I'm gonna start crying. Like, I can't look at it anymore. I actually can't do it. I actually suck.
And
It'll be on
hopefully
the memes.
fantasy
It'll be on
too.
the memes page in no time, bud.
Yeah,
I'm
Benson.
going to training right now.
Benson very, very busy, so don't stress him too much. He'll get there.
Alrighty, thank you everybody for tuning in today as well. I know it was a weird time, but we're really stoked with the turnout today. And yeah, we'll have it up on the YouTube channel anyway, and it's pre-recorded format. So yeah, until I think pre-nats 2 is the next time we'll see everybody. Oh, Sweenats. Make sure you're watching Sweenats.
True.
That'll be the next big comp. Yeah, we got Holmes is over there playing for Electric Fire, and it's going to be just an awesome lineup. You're going to see heaps of teams that are going to be at the Euro Championships. So yeah, tune in. We'll make sure we post all the links and everything like that. And then after that, I think end of January, we've got the Pre-Nats 2 here in Sunshine Coast.
We didn't talk about Elim, but unlucky Elim.
It was a good
Oh,
format.
well.
Yeah. It was a really good format.
It was fun. I loved Elam. Yeah.
I killed our whole team because maths. That was fun. Everyone's like, "What the hell are you doing in the last game?" And I'm like, statistically, if I give all the points to Aftershock and Vantage, it means even if we get wiped, Cobras still lose to us. So I just sent us on a death march and put us between those two teams, so Cobras got no points. And everyone was watching like, "What the hell are you doing?" But I knew that. But if Cobras lost and we got swept, we won like that. So it was crazy, and my team hated me while I did it. But I'm like, it's the best play. We can't lose if we die here.
You're not wrong.
Alrighty, guys. I'm going to tune out, go see my family for dinner.
Awesome.
Goodbye.
All right. Thanks for hosting, Boots.
Welcome, guys. Thanks for jumping on.
Oh, that's me. Yes.
It is